Democrats don't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. Republicans can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. A bitch ass nigga can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. You coon ass niggas can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. Listen here, this is a fact of life. I be rapping like Nat Turner came back to life. Grab Donald Trump by the pussy, he ain't acting right. I never run from a conflict, I be glad to fight. It's a very cold world that we living in. Somebody please tell Elizabeth you're not an Indian. You just trying to con them people to get the benefit. Just another immigrant, stealing from the Indians. That's some punk ass shit and that's too lame. Now we finna step over to Andrew Yang. And you a sucker, you can never speak for black folks. Fake ass pandit, trying to get the black vote. The Democrats don't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. Republicans can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. A bitch ass nigga can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. You coon ass niggas can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. You know your boy be high off sativa. Kamala wasn't popping, so we said bye, Felicia. She ain't had a right policy. We ain't trying to meet her. Y'all can take Biden too. Bye, we don't need him. We don't need Roland Martin or that coon Al Sharpton. Didn't need Cory Booker from the start, man. I don't fuck with police and no snitch. You know I'm coming with the heat when I spit it. The Democrats don't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. Republicans can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. A bitch ass nigga can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. You coon ass niggas can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. If you ever go to court and this is your luck, try not to get fucked by Benjamin Crump. I know it's hard. You and go it's hard. But who the fuck is Amy Cloak? Put her picture up on the bullseye and start throwing darts. People cut our organs out our bodies, that's a stolen heart. They can't save us from the flood like Noah's Ark. Black lives always matter, we finna go for ours. Yep, then we savages, we don't need to pot the piss. Mike Bloomberg is suck dick with that stop and frisk, bitch. You ain't speaking for us, we don't know you. Bernie Sanders, they get your funky ass on too. The Democrats don't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. Republicans can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. A bitch ass nigga can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me. You coon ass niggas can't speak for me. Speak for me, speak for me.
I'm talking about shout going crazy. People going crazy in them motherfuckers. Run that shit back, man.
But it's nothing. Nothing. Got a woman on the day. Man made the car. Carry the heavy load. Man made the electrolyte to take us out of the dark. Man made the pump for the water like it's 7 Man thinks about a little bit of baby girl and a baby boy. Man make them happy because man make them dark. But after man make everything we can, do you know that man makes money to buy from other men? This is a man's world.
Greetings, Shabak. I don't know what happened to you. Welcome back.
No, what happened was I had a glitch in the computer, man. I'm gonna have to ask you to put the topics back in the private chat because it got wiped out. Sorry about that. Man, get that picture off,
Still
man.
smoking on that Gator pack.
Man,
I told y'all some news about it.
That's horrible news. That is horrible, horrible, terrible news.
Best news all month.
And the Raiders need to fire the whole fucking coaching staff. You see what I'm saying?
Thank you, Black family, for tuning into another episode of Front Line Blacc News. I'm your host, Shane Cornel. And as you can see, my Broncos beat the Raiders.
They was beating a bunch of second string wino ass has-beens, a bunch of strung out homeless ass motherfuckers is who they beat.
Putting your second string quarterback in the fourth quarter because we knocked your boy out. Ha ha.
Man, I wouldn't give a good goddamn if y'all knocked off the whole fucking team, man. I tell you, I said they need to fire all the motherfuckers.
And this is season 4, episode 35 of Trade 5, part 2 of the Front Line Blacc News. We've been discussing several things besides football. And the first topic is the deadly deception of Kamala Harris. Special report, or Repost. Kamala mural painted over due to presidential loss. Great news. Great news.
Yes, sir.
Congressional Black Caucus selling out black folks to AIPAC.
Okay, what's the AI? I know PAC is Political Action Committee.
It's basically Israeli. It's basically an Israeli American PAC.
Oh, okay.
Fund all of these Congressional Black Caucus.
Right. Yeah, 3-ring Circus cabinet Piccs. The dumps.
Yeah, the cabinet Piccs. Then the dumps pick for Attorney General Matt Gaetz calls Africans third world thugs.
Okay. Calls Africans third world thugs. And now here's the cold part about these ignorant motherfuckers, Brother Che.
I'll get you the intro.
All right.
Baltimore mayor falsely claims that black women are carrying a nation on their backs. Disgraceful. Disgraceful Democrats triggered as a legal immigrant found guilty in Laken Riley murder. And MSNBC, otherwise known as MSDNC, insinuates Laken Riley's killer was denied a fair trial.
Shit. Wow. That's crazy. Hey, man, you got background noise, Brother Che.
I know it's about this Lady Che is very active.
It sounds like the fan is on.
Oh, yeah. I got her oxygen machine on, too. The insane Jussie Smollett. Remember him?
Oh, yeah, that crazy motherfucker, man, and the damn U.S. Supreme Court overturned his conviction.
And we got Chicago, shout out to Chi-Town. Chicago residents go off on Mayor Brandon Johnson.
As well as they should. They ought to whoop his ass.
Right, for trying to tax them to pay for the illegals.
Oh, no, that's unacceptable.
Then Jesse Jackson Jr., not Mr. Jesse, his son, interviews Dr. Cornel West, former presidential candidate. Then we got the truth behind RFK Jr.'s campaign with only Theo Wilson.
Wow. So him and Dumps made some type of deal behind. I mean, now, let me show you something here, people. Okay, let's look at some common sense. Okay, here, RFK Jr.'s uncle assassinated, in Dallas.
All the interference for her.
And
I
you
mean,
got white kicking ass motherfucking
for,
black individuals. And then
for
the
the small
free
hats.
KP for the having the white people disrespect Mr. Dillard.
Yeah, that was shameful.
Shameful over a motherfucking RFK Jr. that you didn't tell him he was in town. And then he disrespected her, and then he had the free Kuzo just go in and chime in and add up to the multitude.
She still gave him that word.
Of disrespect.
She still gave him that word, though.
Still gave
So I attended a webinar of hers earlier. Remember that webinar that her showed that she had advertised on one of the videos we have placed about?
He was so
It was dope. It was about it was about exposing the dark energies used in the presidential race. Summoning the Dry Bones Army. Remember the story of the Dry Bones from the Bible?
Okay, refamiliarize myself with it. It sounds like them fools who was marching through West Virginia talking about that they would not be replaced.
Not the blood and soil crackers, not them.
Oh,
no,
okay. This is
Dry Bones. It was, I want to say it was either Job or John. Eventually, the ultimate warfare of Black family is the war words.
Okay. All right.
So it was a very deep webinar. I suggest Black family, if you can afford it, to attend her mystery school, where she shares a lot of esoteric occult knowledge on this current present day. But yeah, basically the Dry Bones, like it was like a prophecy, like the dead would walk.
Man, let me tell you something, bruh. I know quite a few people who are dead, and they ain't coming back. Not in this lifetime, they ain't.
Yeah, but you can conjure them up. With the occult.
You can conjure them up.
Yeah.
Now, with all due respect, Brother Che, that sounds like a bunch of bullshit that I saw. Well, this motherfucker was over there stretched out in a box. Like, it was in Africa, I hate to say. And the pastor had a
exorcism, right?
Yeah, I remember the Exorcist. Yeah, they made that bullshit in 1974.
They made it. They got it from us.
The exorcism?
Yes.
On the spirituality?
Yes.
Okay. And then another video that I saw, man, you really gonna laugh at this one, is where they was in a church in Africa.
In all the spiritual books.
Where they showed Jesus ascending into heaven up on some ropes going through the ceiling of the church.
She was going in on the Black Madonna. It was heavy.
Yeah, well, they don't want to recognize us for anything. But the thing that kills me about white folk is that they hate us so much, but then, you know, they want to go violate our women, got our women bed winching.
They want that Marty Carney gene.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it is.
Don't give it to them.
Like Genesis, it means the genes of ISIS.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a lot of code in there. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot. It's a lot of code.
What was there in the beginning?
What was there in the beginning?
Yes.
Black people. What was in the beginning?
God damn it, darkness.
Yeah. Well, only thing I can say about that is this. When I sit up there and stare off into the heavens, as they call it.
I'm taking some tangents, y'all. Now I'm gonna get you to the first. We gotta get to the first topic, and that's Kamala. y'all president or y'all who y'all thought was gonna be president, and she
Yeah.
lost in a major way. Probably the
Oh,
biggest
yeah.
loss of this modern time.
Yeah.
Professor Black Truth been trying to warn us about this broad, as well as Shabaka has been trying to warn us about this broad since
Yeah, for the last 6 goddamn years, I told you she wasn't shit.
longer than that. Shabaka, 8 years.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I forgot when she was the damn attorney general. Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Before she was the first Indian senator.
Yeah. Oh, and then I want to put it out there. Say you punk ass Rami Salami, you Vivek son of a bitch, you. I want your punk ass to call into our platform.
You know, he checked Crimea River Van Jones.
Oh man, Van Jones is disgusting. Hey, win lose.
You got win lose in the
Oh
building.
yeah, win lose. Yeah, okay. Okay, I gotta figure out, man. I gotta get some digits on you, brother. Yeah.
He got our emails. You just gotta email him.
Oh, okay. All right, brother Perry, shoot me his email address if you be so kind, sir. Most definitely I'll get in touch with win lose. You know what I mean?
He can put it in the chat or he can put it in the private chat.
Yeah. Wait a minute, man. You all got me out here with no notepad. How come you let me come up here with no notepad, man, for my notes, man?
You just want to talk about everything you learned today.
Yeah, I had knowledge to share.
Wait a minute and hold on. I got it. Okay. I'm gonna mute myself for a minute. I gotta go get the notepad.
They changed going back in the cut. Okay, so that's a damn lie. So Professor Black Truth is gonna give us an update on your girl Kamala. That ain't my damn girl. I never supported that. Never supported that Hindi bad.
Got a notepad. I got a notepad.
Right.
Okay, now.
Right.
And also too. Okay, now what am I taking notes on win lose? Yeah, on his number. Yeah, win lose. Okay. Also too. Now don't laugh at me, you youngsters. I'm gonna help make the YouTube blow. Okay, win lose. Appreciate you, man. Yeah, we definitely need that. Because also too, win lose. I've been checking out, man, on these these internet books, right? That I went and got from the library, but these motherfuckers is too damn dated. They like 2013, 2014. So, they changed this bullshit all kind of ways since then, you know?
All right, I'm going to play this clip. It's very long, Shabaka, so don't fall asleep.
Okay. Let me make me a cup of mud, man.
Part of the Red Sea to get where she's at.
Who, Kamala?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's get this on the table right away. You've got a list of things going down in the news, but the main thing that we need to talk about is this whole DACA thing, because I don't want any of you guys and girls out there going wobbly on this. So we're going to make sure that we hold people's feet to the fire, starting with Senator Kamala Empty Suit Harris. This woman, who apparently thinks she's going to be the heir apparent to Barack Obama, and she's trying the exact same pathetic stuff that he did, though she's not quite as clever as Barack Obama. Obama, you'll recall, got his full 15 minutes of fame and was able to get himself onto the national stage talking about Hurricane Katrina. Now you got Kamala Harris, who's got 3 or 4 hurricanes back in the U.S., and fooled as she is, she's not even smart enough to capitalize on that and do something safe and smart. Instead, she's decided that she's going to do something that is less useful than having done nothing. She's assured that she's going to be the spokeswoman for DACA. What does that tell you? She's signaling with this, she's making it clear to the white Democratic hierarchy, you need to support me because I ain't saying a damn thing for black people. And yeah, I'm focusing on people other than black folks. And that way the racial pecking order remains in place. Because that's what this is all about. White supremacists got a short con and a long con. They got the short game and they got the long game. Short game is that they want to try to more or less stabilize the percentage of real white people in America and put the fear of God into some of these would-be non-white elements, regardless of whether they consider themselves to be white or not. But the long con happens to be to maintain the racial because that's what this is all about. White supremacists got a short con and a long con. They got the short game and they got the long game. Short game is that they want to try to more or less stabilize the percentage of real white people in America and put the fear of God into some of these would-be non-white elements, regardless of whether they consider themselves to be white or not. But the long con happens to be to maintain the racialist pecking order that undergirds the amount of force, the preponderance of force that they're able to use to maintain white supremacy in the United States. Now, in case some of you hadn't heard, Kamala Harris is planning to run for president. I posted about this on my Twitter feed, and you can already see it now in the mealy-mouthed, non-committal gibberish that she's spewing online, will not commit over black people or concerns. She understands that if you want to be a Democratic contender for president, well, as Tariq Ali once put it, if you want to wear Caesar's robes, you must act as Caesar. And Caesar ain't about to change the racialist pecking order in the U.S. Kamala Empty Suit Harris is being certain she doesn't take up any position that might offend white society unless a sufficient number of white politicians have already stepped out in front and done it first. This isn't leading from the front, it's leading from the middle. It's the same playbook Barack Obama used, and Kamala Harris is running it line by line. She's bold standing up for immigrants, bold standing up for women, mostly white, but with black folks, crickets. And you better keep an eye on this woman, because the white media is trying to basically find anyone who they think could hopefully be an early front runner for 2020, and Kamala Harris thinks that she's going to throw her Burger King crown in the ring. She's already told herself that Donald Trump can be knocked over. You just need the right person to do it. Oh, I'll score an upset win. Let me tell you something. Donald Trump, I'm going to go ahead and say this now. Donald Trump will more than likely win re-election in 2020, and the reason is twofold. One, the Democrats are largely in disarray. That's what happens when you've got two political parties who are essentially two wings of the same white supremacist party. There's no real need for the Democrats to organize themselves. That's kind of like saying, why is it the Washington Generals never organized themselves against the Harlem Globetrotters? Because, god dang it, they're employees of the same company. That's what's going on here. Donald Trump, I think, will more than likely win in 2020 because there's no real competition. And whatever competition comes along, they're up against the fact that Donald Trump is making it clear that he is the white candidate. You've already had the allegedly first non-white president. Well, now you got the first unabashedly in-your-face white president. And there's a lot of white folks who like that. Don't let these opinion polls and such fool you, okay? It's the same stuff that was going on last year. We heard them all say the opinion polls showed that Donald Trump would lose. And we all know how that turned out now, don't we? Just because people are not enthused about voting for somebody doesn't mean they won't vote for them. Just because they don't like somebody's antics doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to fall into the opposite camp. See, that's a political reality that Kamala Harris is flying in the face of. I guess she figures that she's going to get out there and play to the white media. Never mind the fact that the media is run by and large by a bunch of white males who have more in common with Trump than not. Kamala Harris has been engaging in ever more desperate publicity stunts to try to garner some quickie attention for herself. There's no strategy going on here. There is no big idea. There is no game plan. It's basically, I'm going to talk about Trump and Russia. I'm going to talk about DACA. And apparently this is going to get you support. How? You're trying to be everybody's buddy when what you need to be doing is showing that you're going to lead. But then again, Kamala Harris has never led. And there is some of the white media who are lauding her for this. I guess they know a perfect fool when they see one. Kamala Harris decided that Trump's Russia connection was going to be the horse that she would ride to glory. Well, of course, she's seen that horse didn't get very good grass mileage. See, Barack Obama was smart enough to use Hurricane Katrina to get some quickie headlines because he was smart enough to understand that it was a non-controversial stance to take. But at the same time, it would give him the ability to be able to obliquely attack George Bush while at the same time not offending too many of Bush's core supporters. Barack Obama understood the game. Political stalking horses like Obama and Harris, they always use the same stale MO. You find a high-profile issue that's in the news, that way the media is doing about half your work for you. An issue that's politically safe and won't cost you too many folks. And then you talk boldly against the opposition party using this non-issue, and you get to pretend that somehow you've done something. It's the perfect non-event event. And it's exactly what the political bootlick does, because you're not merely manipulating the public into thinking, hey, you stand for something, but you're also making the powers that be, the icy political forces in the shadows, You're letting them know that you're not about to rock the boat. Obama used Katrina as a media springboard to attack the GOP, same way Harris is trying and failing to use Russia, and neither of them is talking about punishment, by the way. Neither one of them said a word about punishment. Barack Obama never said people need to be held accountable in FEMA for the failure in New Orleans. No talk of punishment. Just like he didn't talk about punishment for the scumbags who raped the national economy and caused the worst economic disaster since the Great Depression. No talk of punishment, and there's not going to be. The people who Barack Obama was expected to get big campaign donations from, they were listening very closely. It's kind of like those clowns from the Daily Stormer when they were listening to Trump talk about the white supremacists who stormed Charlottesville. They correctly interpreted, hey, he's not actually saying anything about us. He talked around us. And when the white media tried to hold his feet to the fire, he walked away. They understood that Trump was deliberately talking around them and not actually pointing any comments at them. But they got it. They understood it. They saw the scam. And the same thing went for the big fat cats on Wall Street with Barack Obama. He didn't talk about punishment. They were like, okay, good. Do you ever wonder why it is that Barack Obama was able to get more money and more campaign donations than any candidate for president in American history? Think about that. George W. Bush, he did more to rape the national economy than any leader in the history of the world. And yet, he didn't get as much money as Barack Obama did. Ask yourself this question. What on earth could justify that for a guy who hadn't even made it to the White House yet? How could somebody on Wall Street or one of these big corporate hedge funds or one of these big political donors, one of these mega multinational businessmen, how on earth could they feel confident rolling the dice for Barack Obama considering what George W. Bush had been doing for 8 years? What on earth could Barack Obama possibly have promised these men that was more valuable than what George W. Bush had already done? The tax cuts, tax breaks, no one going to jail, regulations all torn down. What the world did Barack Obama promise them that could have possibly been more valuable than what George Bush already did? And then you see the fact that there were no prosecutions, no investigations. It all came to a screeching halt. Barack Obama would not even discuss the issue of what's to be done about the men who destroyed the national economy. He wouldn't even discuss the subject, wouldn't even broach it, wouldn't even bring it up. The country was on the verge of a revolution 8 years ago, and by pretending to address America's cardinal and greatest sin, by putting up a political distraction, which is what Barack Obama was, they got to dodge the issue. That's what happened. And on top of that, they got all that juicy federal bailout money. See, that's what Obama promised them that was more valuable than what George Bush already did. He said, I'm going to keep you out of prison, and I'm going to make sure you get some federal loot to go along with it, but I need some campaign donations. Sold. And Kamala Harris, coming from California, you already know she's plugged in with Nancy Pelosi and the rest of the West Coast libs, the rest of the white supremacist liberal machine out there. So I'm sure that she's already got her group of donors, surely George Clooney and his ilk lined up. But what's not lined up is anything that's going to be of benefit to black people. See, that's not a plank of her political platform. Kamala Harris ain't worried about what's going to be happening to all the black people who have been railroaded into prison. In the last couple of weeks, some white media outlets have been talking about the fact.
Remember Black family George Clooney and several other celebrity donors that support Sleepy Jim Crow fighting out of
out there in Hollywood is because if you notice in every presidential election, they're always going to Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying? You know, getting money from the millionaires and what have you. And then, of course, too.
Came out in like 2017.
Yeah. This here is before Dump Law got voted out by
more exonerations of black inmates wrongly convicted, wrongly imprisoned in the last year than there's practically ever been since numbers have been kept on record. And yet, former prosecutor Kamala Empty Suit Harris ain't got a word to say about that. In fact, she doesn't have a word to say about anything that might be of interest to black people, because far as she's concerned, she's going to get out there and say, oh, my great-grandmother was black, or man, I got some black folks in my family, and that should get to the black folks, hey, I'm one of you. And we'll see how many black people are dumb enough to fall for it. But it ain't going to be because some of us over here in the B1 Brigade haven't been putting the doggone spotlight on this heifer. The black vote is on strike, either until the Democrats finally bend the knee and bow their heads before the real moral authority in America, the only legitimate moral authority in America, which is the black community, the African-American community, the only real moral authority this country or the world, truth be told, has ever had in the modern era, or until we have gotten our act together economically and politically in that order to the point that we can start fielding our own candidates, because that's where this is going regardless. Even if the Democrats do pretend for a hot minute to actually discover religion and do what they should have been doing the last 150 years and supporting a moral people who are the only true compass to progress that this nation will ever have, if they decide that they're going to put up a sham and say, okay, we'll go ahead, throw you a few bones, we'll make a couple of token gestures, we'll put a little bit of meat on the bones this time, doesn't matter. It'll be cute for a stopgap, but the point is, we're still going in our own direction, which is that we're going to have people who we choose, rock solid people from our own ranks, and Barack Obama ain't one of them, and Kamala Harris ain't one of them. See, we have a short game and a long game too. But all of a sudden, Kamala Harris, who normally had been trying to see if she could get herself some quickie headlines with Trump, now that ain't working, you got this woman who's giving innuendos that Donald Trump is violating the Constitution. I guess that's going to be her big thing. I'm a lawyer and I know about the Constitution. Yeah, same way Barack Obama was a constitutional professor at Columbia University, and we all know how much good that did us. Kamala Harris can drop all the hints she wants about Trump committing high crimes. She doesn't say a peep about what ought to actually be done should the allegations prove true. So even if you take the black community out of the conversation, which Kamala Harris has certainly done, you can't get around the fact that Kamala Harris isn't actually talking about doing anything. Yeah, you got to give her some credit. She learned the lesson of Obama's political success. A non-white candidate's biggest hurdle to the presidency will obviously be the white vote. If you can appeal to them, then the non-white vote, specifically the black vote, ought to fall into your lap by default, or at least that's how the theory goes. And I suppose in her mind, there's some cachet for this presupposition. Everybody knows that Hillary was a crap candidate, but even Republicans had to admit that the main reason Donald Trump won was because the black vote didn't turn out for the Democrats like they had in 2008 or even 2012. And this was very interesting to me. I mean, you had all the right-wing pundits, from Fox News to right-wing hate radio, all saying the same thing. Yeah, Hillary Clinton lost. She got more of the popular vote, but the truth of the matter is, in those crucial states where she could have flipped them, or at least maintained the Democratic majority for the Electoral College, the black vote wasn't there to support her. And because the black vote did not turn out, now, of course, being the white media, they got to make sure they throw the red meat to the other white supremacists and say, well, black people vote along lines of race. Yeah, because white voters never do that. Give me a break. But they had to go ahead and sprinkle some BS on it for ease of digestion for their chosen audience of psychopathic racists. But the reality was they did get the point across, which was we fully recognize that the reason Donald Trump is president is because the black vote stayed home. The Republicans get that. And the Democrats get that too, but the difference is the Republicans are not looking for black votes, and the Democrats are hoping they can find a way to galvanize enough Hispanics. Well, if Trump has his way, ain't going to be enough Hispanics for you to galvanize. Nobody's saying, you know what? We got to get this black vote riled up the right way here, because they understand that the winds of political change have blown, and that there's new voices the black community's listening to, like ours. They saw what happened with Black Lives Matters. Enough black folks who actually made clear you're not going to make it into all lives matter. You're not going to pivot to something else. We said black, and it's staying black. We have confronted them with the nightmare scenario. The Democrats are offended. They're offended that black people dug in our heels and said, no, you're not changing the subject. And it ain't about people of color. It's not about the inner city. It's not about non-whites. It's about black. In other words, we are directly demanding the Democrats threaten the very racialist social order that they themselves depend upon. The same Democrats who have been hoping that they can fool black people into sitting on our hands until they eventually starve us for resources to the point that we're exterminated. Now they're seeing that, nah, we ain't going gently into that good night. We're going to make some noise. We're going to demand that you stop the kill machine that you've had running against us. The Democrats are going, we need something else. Yeah, no wonder they want to talk about DACA. No wonder they want to talk about Russia. They want to talk about the man on the moon. But they don't want to talk about black folks because this is about maintaining white supremacy. And black empowerment is the antidote to white supremacy. You want to bring down white supremacy worldwide? You put some power in the hands of black folks, dollars with an agenda, an economy with an ideology. That's how you stop white supremacy. And there's no substitute for that. It won't come from the Asian community, and it won't come from the Hispanic community. Look at the racism and colorism in Latin America. See how the racialist hierarchy is there. They were classified as white until the 1970s when Richard Nixon revoked their white status, and they've been trying to reclaim that classification ever since. So obviously the only game in town for taking down white supremacy is black folks in the US. And that's where people like Kamala Harris come in. They don't have the ability to try to mislead us indirectly. There's not going to be any more JFKs coming along or RFKs giving lip service. So now it's like, oh, I guess we need somebody who looks more like them. So they find somebody, and Dr. John Henrik Clarke talked about this, sexual politics. You got somebody with a white father and a black mother, or a black mother and a white father, and you're sitting here wondering, why is this person so confused? They're not confused at all. They were sent in by your enemies to mislead you. And it is not harmless whenever people like Kamala Empty Suit Harris get in front of the cameras and decide they're going to talk about DACA, Russia, or anything other than black people. Because when that happens, the white media is going to promote her as being a black politician. And obviously, black politicians don't give a damn about black folks, so it's okay for everybody else to ignore black people too, because after all, black people's own so-called leaders, as the white media promotes them, they don't think about black people. So what that means is you're not supposed to be saying anything either. Oh, don't worry, black people already have their own representatives. Why, look at Kamala Harris over here. If black people need anything, that's what Kamala Harris is there for. Except she ain't speaking for black folks. You see how sophisticated the game is here? Kamala Harris figures she's going to pay big lip service to black people, but only using the same old non-specific lexicon of code words. She mentions black people once every blue moon, mostly as an afterthought, but only as part of a list. She makes sure the list is big, by the way, so that black people always get lost in the shuffle. We're talking about transgender and Hispanics and women and disabled people and black folks and environmentalists. And we're talking about people who don't have access to clean water. We're talking about immigrants and all the rest. Yeah, she practically never mentions black people in isolation. That's deliberate. For the politician who's trying to curry white votes, they know that every time they mention black people, their chances of getting white votes go down. White voters are always keeping a mental tally of A, whether or not you mention black people. That's the first thing they're looking for. Make sure our guarantee remains in place. You can't be mentioning those niggers. That's going to threaten the system. Don't be mentioning those black folks. And B, if you mention black folks, white voters' ears perk up. Now they're counting how many times you mention black people and in what context. That's what you should have learned from those clowns over at the Daily Stormer. They were not only listening to see if Donald Trump mentioned them, but they wanted to see in what context he mentioned them. And when Donald Trump danced around them, they got the message loud and clear. They know full well that their position is immoral and wrong and unethical, and they don't give a damn. They understand that the name of this game is to lie and lie big. And the most effective tool the white supremacy has used rhetorically has been lies of omission. It ain't just what you say. What's also equally important is what you don't say, what you leave out. So when you talk about who's going to get what from presidential candidate ABC, just make sure the black folks don't get mentioned. And white racists are looking going, okay, good. They didn't mention the black folks. Good. Okay, that means that there's going to be the same consistency of policy, white first. See, you mention black people too many times, and white society will reject you altogether. Whenever you talk at a political rally, you always make sure to tell white voters what they're going to get. When you mention black people, on the other hand, it should only be in passing, and do not ever say that black people are actually going to get anything. You can talk about stuff for poor folks, you can talk about stuff for the inner city, you can talk about stuff for people of color, but black people? Nah, we don't get specific with black people. There's a racialist pecking order in America, and white society wants anyone who seeks the presidency to assure and reassure them that the free ride that's been going on for 500 years will continue unabated. They've been getting a free lunch for the last half millennium, and they'll be damned if you're going to start charging them for it now. This is the kind of cynical political triangulation that's the trick black people have been falling for decades. And don't expect to see any pushback to Kamala Empty Suit Harris from the Congressional Black Talkers. These guys are all playing the same game. They signed on to white supremacy a long time ago. That was part of their entree. They're part of a private club. You haven't been seeing them giving the old college try to standing up for black folks. They haven't done it, and they're not going to. Face it. The black misleadership class is there because as black people, we have, unfortunately, tragically, a critical mass of black folks, starting with black baby boomers, who have just been the most damnable curse to be put upon any generation of people, but the baby boomers who decided a long time ago that they were so eager for attention from white power, they would vote for black politicians, not because they wanted black politicians, but because they figured that if they voted for some black politicians, that would make the white politicians pay attention to them. That was their political triangulation. We want some attention from the white politicians, so maybe we'll get it if we vote for some black folks, that'll show them our feelings are hurt. But of course, all it showed the white politicians was that the best way to get black people to fight against their own black interest was to get another dark face to sell them on white supremacy. White supremacy in drag. But there is one thing that Empty Suit Harris and the Congressional Black Talkers and their white paymasters back of them didn't count on. And that's you and me. You see, we were dead serious when we said that we will not vote for any candidate who we did not put out in the field ourselves. We were serious when we said that you're going to have to say black. You're going to have to speak specifically to black people. That's what the 2016 election was about. Whether it was Mark O'Malley getting checked when he tried to pivot to all lives matter. Yeah, we know you're looking for some white votes. You've been getting over on black people in Baltimore, silly as they've been. You've been getting over on them. So you figure you take this show on the road, and if you say Black Lives Matters, I'll say you're right, all lives matter. No, we didn't say all. We said black lives, because black people aren't the ones gunning white people down in the streets. That's why. And black people aren't the ones who get on these juries and act as a rubber stamp committee for the murders of black people. It's white racists who are acting as a racialist cabal, a lynch mob in the jury room. So you have to prove to us that you're going to fight against white privilege, against white power. You have to show you're going to do that. Mark O'Malley thought he would get away with something. He got away with nothing. Hillary Clinton tried the same thing as she found her support dampening, weakening, and eventually collapsing where the black vote is concerned. This taught white power a lesson, and you can tell they were traumatized by it because you would think that they would at least come to the black community and say, hey, you know, we're going to sing a couple of songs. We'll send some of our bootlicks to the black churches here and there. We'll get Pastor Porkchop or Reverend Hog Mog with the chitlin juice running down his jaw. We'll get one of these pulpit pimps to sing our praises. But it ain't working like that. It's because even the old standbys, the old faithfuls, the old clowns, clods, and fools, even they are finding out that, nah, if you step to the black community, they're not listening. They have closed their ears now to all the old rhetoric. You're not going to talk around the issue this time. The Democrats were going, damn, if we can't talk around the issue, well, just don't say anything at all. It would be more dangerous to try to engage with the black community at this point. Let's see if we can scare them. What we'll do is we'll see if we can get some comedians and some black actors, you know, we'll see if we can get them to mislead the black community and say that you got to stand up for DACA, stand up for immigrants, stand up for this, that, and the third, but not for yourselves. At this point, they're throwing everything and the kitchen sink at the wall to see if anything's going to stick. They're panicking right now because they don't know what the hell to do. See, it's not about whether or not the Republicans or Democrats are in power. What matters is, has a sufficiently large enough critical mass of people signed on to the con? That's what this is about. This is about mind share. White supremacy is a lie. White supremacy is a con. And that includes the so-called political systems and the politicians that it's created and promoted and propped up. You see, it doesn't matter if you're talking about any one particular politician or any political party or political parties. It's not about them. They're not the ones who this fraud, this political, social, economic fraud is being put on for the benefit of. This is about you. It has always been about whether or not you are going to go along with the lie, because truth be told, they don't really have any means to force you to do it. Sure, they'll bring out some racist guys with some guns and batons, but the truth of the matter is, as these guys have found out, even a smaller group of black folks, especially black men, if they decide that they're going to go ahead and put something on your head right quick, your military doesn't stand a chance. They would get overrun, because at the end of the day, it comes down to who wants to fight more. And there's a lot of repressed anger and rage among black people, specifically black men, at the way things have been going. The white supremacists always say, we've been waiting 2 or 3 generations for this. Well, guess what, dumbasses? We've been waiting for it a few generations too. And you saw what happened when the deal went down. So that's what they're looking at. They see that there's a highly enthused group of black men who would love the chance to finally not merely rattle their sabers, but to go ahead and confront these white supremacist foot soldiers. They know that. This is what old TJ, Thomas Jefferson, meant when he said, we have a tiger by the ears, and we can neither safely hold him nor let him go. He was talking about the black man is what he was talking about. We got him by the ears right now, but he's about to get away from us. And we can't hold on to him. We can't reassert our grip. And at the same time, we also don't have the ability to let him go because he'll take a huge chunk out of our hairy behinds. So we ain't really sure what the hell to do. Well, the solution to be called on was to try and find one of their own to deceive them and mislead them. And so they have. But it seems like a critical mass of black folks have finally said, we're not going to play the game anymore. And now the good white powers that be don't know what the hell to do about this. This was a contingency that they've been scared of, but they've never been able to actually come up with a solution for it. There are no good options here for them. They need you to continue to go along with it. And yet here you got people like old Professor Truth, B1 Brigade, who keep up the steady drumbeat of this is all a lie, disengage, disconnect, distance yourselves from them. Do not be part of this. Don't vote in their elections. You need to be looking out for your own interests. Don't listen to their rhetoric. They're never going to actually act on any of the things that they say. Even the rhetoric will never actually translate into real policy. And that is a complete threat because you are the reason that the system exists. A con man who has stolen your money only gets to keep it as long as you let him keep it. At the moment you decide, I'm coming for my money, stick 'em up, sucker, I'm here for what's mine. As soon as that happens, they don't have an answer for that. So yeah, of course they need Kamala Harris and the rest of the Congressional Black talkers because the game here is to fool you, to continue to deceive you. Better yet, to get you to continue to deceive yourself. As long as you're sitting on your hands, as long as you're doing nothing about it, the game will continue. The con is on. So here we are to tell you, nope, your game is to upset their little apple cart. And why not? It's your apple cart and your apples they stole. We don't know Kamala Harris any more than we knew Barack Obama. We didn't choose her. White Democrats did. And like Obama, she hasn't done a damn thing for us. She hasn't championed one issue for us, and she's not going to. You've never heard her mention the word reparations or how she intends to get them. She's a lawyer. Shouldn't she at least have brought up the subject, if for no other reason than to dismiss it? But she hasn't. Same way Barack Obama, who's also a lawyer, made sure never to mention the R word. Hell, at least Bernie Sanders mentioned it long enough to say, it's not feasible. For Harris and Obama, that word is so radioactive for them, even a dismissal of it would be too much. Kamala Harris slithered out of California. Now, common sense would dictate that as out of control as California's police departments are, she should be on a nonstop crusade against police brutality and racial profiling. But she's not. She's practically never mentioned it, and she damn sure never talks about it as an issue specifically terrorizing black people. After all, like Obama and Hillary before her, Kamala Harris wants those police union votes. Oh, you saw the Philadelphia Police Union who called Black Lives Matters animals. And you saw what's going on in Las Vegas, haven't you? You've seen what happened to that brother out there, Michael Bennett, attacked by a Latino police officer. But hey, we ain't worrying about all that. None of the politicians are saying, how dare you attack somebody and then turn around and say that he owes you an apology. And you call yourself smearing them? Nobody's looking at the police and saying we need to suspend their funding because it ain't about keeping streets safe. Crime is at the lowest it's been in like 2.5 generations. What this is about is the fact that white supremacy looks and says, damn, the wheels could fall off any minute. We're going to need a sufficient number of race soldiers on the streets to make sure that black people don't decide to tear down the social order once and for all. That's the job of the police. It's twofold. One, to make sure that the economic, social, and political guarantees that those classified as white enjoy continues to stay in place because it's all ill-gotten gain. It's all stolen goods, stolen from you. So you got to make sure they continue to enjoy it so that when they break the law, they can expect a certain amount of social support, that the society has apparatuses in place that are meant to protect them, coddle them, pamper them, and the police are part of that. And just in case anybody, black people think that they're going to overturn that or challenge that or going to demand that there's going to be equal pampering all around, well, the police's job is to make sure black people get locked up, abused, killed, use violent force, and the police are the tip of the spear on that one to use the power of the state through state-sponsored, state-sanctioned, state-guided, state-promoted violence in order to make sure that you don't get any ideas about changing things. Kamala Harris knows that you're not going to see these politicians, black, white, or otherwise, talking about how these departments need to take the hard line against racial profiling and need to go after bad officers. How the hell can you clean up a pigsty? You can't clean up a pigsty. You just can't do it. The police are not cleaning up police brutality because as far as they're concerned, why would they want to stop doing their job? They understand what their job is. What happened to Michael Bennett? That was not one policeman who was out of control. That was them doing exactly what the hell it is they've always done. The police and the white politicians and the black ones, they are not confused about what the job of the police is in the United States under white supremacy. They know exactly what the job of the police is. That's why Kamala Harris has not talked about putting any of them in prison. She has not talked about suspending federal funds. She has not talked about going after police chiefs because after all, if the police are out of control, it means that someone needs to be asking if the police chief needs to be investigated. Let's put some heat on them. She hasn't talked about that and she's not going to. She is here to support white supremacy. She's here to prop it up. She has not given one speech, major, minor, or otherwise, talking about how it's finally time to deal with racial profiling and to punish people and what the punishment should be. She hasn't talked about any legislation. She hasn't called for any legislation, hasn't signed any legislation, and she's not going to, hasn't even proposed any, and she's not going to. She's been out there in California, ground zero for police brutality for the damn longest time. You would have thought that somebody would have caught her saying, just as a matter of statistical error, talk about, we need to put police chief so-and-so in jail and sheriff so-and-so needs to be prosecuted. I'm going after them. You'd think that just as a fluke, she would have said it. Nope, not even once. She's on the team with them. They're scared of white supremacy being threatened, and the bootlicks for white supremacy are terrified of white supremacy being threatened. White supremacy's looking and saying, well, we've got a fallback position. We can always run to Europe or head for the hills. The bootlicks are like, hell, every crumb of our daily bread comes from these white supremacists. They fall, we got absolutely nothing, not even a fallback position, no anything. Now, let me tell you how this deal is going to go down when Kamala Harris finally decides she's going to stop talking around the issue and stop dancing around the edges and finally come up the middle when she finally says, I am officially running for president. The first thing she's going to do is reach out to black women. She's going to reach out to black women and say, I'm a black woman, that should give me the black female vote. And she's hoping that even though black people say that they won't turn out for a candidate who refuses to represent us strongly, that hopefully some number of black folks will go to the polls anyway, because perhaps hopefully gender will matter more to them than blackness. Let me go on the record with this one. Sadly, that forlorn hope for Kamala Harris ain't too far-fetched. So let's make sure we get this straight from the jump. Black women, Kamala Harris is a stranger to us. You better get your mind straight about this, because the day is coming when there's going to be zero tolerance for anybody in the black community who continues to show this kind of vacillating, mealy-mouthed, flip-flopping behavior that we've had too much of. If you want to decide that you're a woman first, then that's your team. But if you're saying you're black first, then damn it, when the black men say this is the enemy over here, we better be hearing your voices too. And all these low-key wannabe feminist elements have been all quiet. You're kind of like church mice, and we barely hear a peep from you because you know if somebody mentions the wrong that some black man has done, they got a lot to say about that. They never miss an opportunity to speak out whenever a black man's to be taken to task. But the second that somebody says, hey, white supremacy has propped up a lot of these black female sock puppets inside and outside the black community, when somebody mentions that, all of a sudden the protest is muted. All of a sudden, well, we ain't going to say that you're wrong, but we ain't going to say that you're right either. We're not lending our voices to that. To hell with that. It's Judgment Day. In fact, in the middle of this war, every day is Judgment Day, and everyone will be required to give a daily accounting of themselves. And the people who think that they're going to hide in the shadows and somehow they will say, well, that gets me a bye, no. First thing we're going to do is look at the ledger. We're going to see how many times you spoke out and who did you speak out against. And we're going to find out how passionately you spoke out against them. If you only did it once every blue moon, or you kind of hoped that you were going to fly under the radar, then that makes you part of the problem. See, Kamala Harris is hoping that she's going to get tacit support, largely from black women. Let's call it out. Kamala Harris is hoping that her primary support base is going to be comprised of black women. If you look at who it is that she posts on her Twitter page or Facebook group, you see usually within the photo ops, there's going to be a disproportionate number of black women because she's thinking that these are the ones most likely to support her, and a large part of that comes down to she thinks that she speaks their language. This is war. I am not going to be tiptoeing around the issue. I'm going to call it out so we can start making sure that everybody understands. We see exactly what the potential pitfalls and problems are, and we're calling them out from the jump. So I'm requiring any black woman who considers herself to be a devotee of Professor Truth, if you consider yourself to be a part of the B1 Brigade, it needs to be black women out there who are leading the charge, calling Kamala Harris out. You want to kneecap this heifer from the jump, then the way to do that is by making sure that there's a sufficient number of black women saying, nah, Kamala Harris, you ain't standing for us, you don't support us, you're not doing anything. See, that's why Hillary Clinton got cut off at the knees. You had a whole lot of white women out there who were trying to drag out some of the golden oldies that they've been repeating since the 1960s. There's a special place in hell for women who don't support women, women being their own worst enemy, blah, blah, blah. You had a bunch of white women who were looking and going, you know what? We don't like seeing all these black or even brown kids in our schools. And well, we need to have somebody who's going to stand for that. The white women made it clear they were white first. Gender? Well, the white man's going to take care of the gender part because, after all, long as he's looking out for his children, he's got to look out for his white woman by default anyway. See, they understood what it was and what it's got to be. They were pragmatic. That's why they're getting what they want. They know that that feminism crap was just a cry for attention, and they left it in the trash heap of history where it belonged. When it came time for serious action that was going to determine whether or not white women were going to continue to enjoy the perks, privileges, and lifestyles to which they've become accustomed, they left that feminism crap alone, and Hillary Clinton wound up out there by herself. It was white women who largely helped support Donald Trump because they understood, they correctly interpreted, that he made it clear that he was standing for white children, and white women were looking and going, well, hell, I'm more interested in what happens to my child than I am with what happens to me. See, she put her own personal self to the back seat. That's the reason why she's getting what she wanted. There is an order to things. There is a way that things must be in order for things to progress. So any black women out there who consider themselves to be on Team Black Empowerment, you better stop being a bunch of wilting violets and stop it with all of this, well, how come you're going after the sisters? White supremacy figured out 50 plus years ago that the perfect weapon that they could use to cripple the black community was going to be black women. And in the 1960s, unfortunately, a critical mass of black women went along with it. And I think that Kamala Harris could be far more dangerous than Barack Obama because Barack Obama was largely a do-nothing president. I'm looking at Kamala Harris and saying, wait a minute, the battle is joined at this point. White supremacy has finally taken off any pretense that the race war ain't on, and they're coming at us. The last thing we need is any black person out there. Now that the doggone bullets are flying and the white supremacists are out there and saying, whose streets are streets, blood and soil. Now that they're reenacting 1930s style Nazi rallies in the streets and they're murdering people, and you got a president who says, well, I'm blaming everybody. Well, that means he ain't blaming nobody at all. No, we cannot afford to go wobbly on this one. We cannot afford to go soft on this one. We got to figure out exactly who the traitors are and exactly who the turncoats are, exactly who the bootlicks are, exactly who the charlatans, frauds, fakers, and phonies are, and call them out. We need to undermine their support from the jump, from before the jump. We are not going to be having any more problems with black men having to fight vanguard and rearguard actions anymore. No more daggers in the back. You're going to have to show that you too are going to tear down white supremacy with your hands, black woman. And that starts by identifying any of these black females who get out here to be mouthpieces for white supremacy. And you must be the tip of the spear against them. It is not sufficient that Professor Truth merely speaks out. It is not sufficient that Professor Truth throws the light of truth onto Kamala Harris. The sisters have to show that when it comes time, especially for black women who are either off code or on the wrong team, that black women will be the main ones, indeed the first ones, that they will have to contend with. Because you see, it didn't take white men dragging white women kicking and screaming to turn their backs on Hillary Clinton. They didn't have to sit there and put too much effort into that. White women seem to get the point without having to be led to it. And that's the reason why they were able to achieve disproportionate success in their goals. If you need somebody to point it out to you, if somebody has to repeatedly tell it to you, then what that means is you're resisting it, you're fighting it. Apparently you resent it somehow. If I say that Kamala Harris is a cancer and that she needs to be pointed out and rooted out, and your reaction to that is, how come you ain't talking about David Clark? How come you ain't talking about Herman Cain? How come you ain't talking about Clarence Thomas? If that's your freaking reaction, then that means you're a problem and we don't have the luxury of dragging any more problems. Kamala Harris is not the only issue, but I see her for what she is. She is the Democrats' attempt to try to sweet talk us off of the righteous position that we have taken in and dug our heels in upon. And that is the black vote ain't voting for Democrats in any capacity until they take the oath. Given time, either if we marshal our own internal resources or if the Democrats become desperate enough to maintain their wing of white supremacy and try to fool enough black people to remaining engaged, even if only rhetorically, to try and make sure enough black folks stay within the plantation of the idea that you really can get this wicked country to treat you fairly. If they can just throw enough bones, Kamala Harris is part of that effort. She's a trial balloon. Kamala Harris's purpose is to test our resolve. That's why she's there. Her job is to test us. Did we really mean what we said? Sure. The black community was angry, but as Dr. Martin Luther King said way back in the 1960s, they were just trying to find out, did the Negro just want to blow off some steam? See, what's happening here, they know that black people are mad as hell. They know that we've been getting targeted. They know we've been getting killed with impunity, and they've been the ones killing us. But what they want to see is, did we mean what we said when we told them, you're not going to get any more black votes? We're disengaging from the system. White supremacy, like all cons, especially sophisticated cons, it is inherently, utterly, crucially dependent upon a precariously dangerous balance. Any little thing could knock it over. It depends upon us remaining where we are to maintain the balance. And when we start saying, nah, we're leaving this con, and the only way that we might even consider, I won't say participating in, but I will say being involved tangentially in the con, is that the con is going to have to attack itself now. We are telling white supremacy to put a blade to their own throats. We are facing them with a catch-22. They can't maintain white supremacy without a critical mass of black people playing along with it. But at the same time, we're demanding that in order to play along with it, you got to do things detrimental to yourself. That's a catch-22. So they trot out Kamala Harris. The goal here is to see, did we mean what we said when we said no more votes from the black community for Democrats until you start saying black? Did you really mean black? You sure we can't get away with just having a kind of black woman out there who attacks Donald Trump? You sure about that? And don't expect her to go away quickly. One of the things that white supremacy has learned, because we tragically taught this to them, was that the black community may hold for a few minutes, but we have serious problems with persistence. We are consistently inconsistent. That's the lesson that we taught them. So as far as they're concerned, especially with their massive resources, they can afford to let Kamala Harris sit there and say, hey, the 2018 midterms are right around the corner. You don't want Donald Trump to strengthen his hold on the White House. We need to pry his fingers from the levers of power. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. Was he a threat to democracy when he was giving all that money to Hillary Clinton? When he was supporting Bill Clinton during the 1990s and calling out Bill Clinton's detractors? Was he a threat to democracy then? Was he a threat to democracy when he was taking out ads in the New York Times assailing 5 innocent black kids who had been railroaded, the Central Park 5? Was Donald Trump a threat to democracy then? Was he a threat to democracy in the 1970s when he was engaging in blatant racist housing discrimination against black people? Was he a threat to democracy then? So as long as he attacks black people, and as long as he puts money in the pockets of white Democrats, he's not a threat to democracy. But the second that Donald Trump decides he has a little something to say against your would-be future constituency, all of a sudden Donald Trump's a threat, or at least they want him to be perceived as one. As far as I'm concerned, as far as my people with their heads on straight are concerned, when it comes to threats to democracy, that's an oxymoron in the United States. In order for there to be a threat to American democracy, there would have to be American democracy to begin with. And this country is not a democracy. It's a racialist autocracy. It's an ethno-state. And there's no such thing as democracy in an ethno-state. This country has not had democracy for one moment of its entire existence. For 200 years, the United States has supported dictatorships, like when it supported the white ruling class of Haiti. That was a freaking ethno-state dictatorship. The United States is a dictatorship itself. So there is no way in hell that you're going to sit here and tell me that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. The United States is not a democracy, and the people who cherish the United States, these people are not patriots. They are racialist ideologues. So to say that Donald Trump is somehow bad for America, well, America's been bad for the world, so to me, that's a distinction without a difference. No, we are not going back to the plantation. Yes, we are serious. We mean exactly what we say, and it will be the sweetest of delicious irony if you have some Democrats here saying, well, maybe to keep the black people, just to get a few of them to re-engage, maybe we ought to do a little something. See, this is the problem. They learn from history. This is the problem that happened 150 years ago after slavery. That's what Reconstruction was about. There were some people in the U.S. government who were trying to figure out, was there some middle ground that would enable them to avert the threat of these good old boys trying to stage a second insurrection and at the same time maintain the racialist pecking order? And what they found during Reconstruction was black people starting to rise. And there were Republicans who, in order to secure their position, they made the devil's bargain with the good old boys, that they would end Reconstruction if the white supremacists would support them. See, that's what happened to Reconstruction. The Republicans who put Reconstruction in place also decided to get rid of it because, as Abraham Lincoln, a Republican himself, said, I do not believe in the equality of the races. I believe that the superior position ought to be assigned to the white man. It was not an accident. It was not a coincidence that Abraham Lincoln used the word assigned. He used that word deliberately. And if you want to know what the word assign means, according to Merriam-Webster, what it means is to transfer property to another, especially in trust or for the benefit of creditors. And does that not precisely explain exactly what the racialist pecking order of the United States has done for 500 years? It has taken the wealth, the material resource, the human resource, the intellectual resource of Black people and transferred that property to white society. But there's also other definitions for assigned. The secondary definition, according to Merriam-Webster, is to appoint to a post or duty. To appoint to a post or duty. I would see the superior position, that is, overseer, assigned to the white man. He would see them appointed to a particular position. Now, of course, another way to look at that term assigned is that something's being given to them. They didn't earn it, it's just being handed over. See, that's what's going on here. The times may change. The white supremacists don't. I want you to understand that the same way you had bootlicks, sellouts, and such on the plantations, you still got them today. Ain't nothing changed. Have you changed? I'm hoping that you've changed. I know that the bad guys aren't going to change. The question is, are you going to change? Because if you do, then that changes everything. You're going to have to dig in your heels. They're going to try to make your position uncomfortable for you because this is war. And one of the first points of warfare is you try to figure out, how do you rattle your opponent? How do you make it where your opponent looks and goes, I can't maintain this position? Can you outlast him? Can you wear down his resolve? Well, can they? See, it's easy to say it now. We're still in early days, early going. But I was the one who told you that Donald Trump was not going to really be able to attack Black people too ferociously. How can he? They've been attacking us for 500 years. And a lot of you were scared. Not all, not even most, but enough of you scared. A lot of you don't actually know your history. You say you do, but you don't. You don't really pay attention. So when I told you Trump could actually turn out to be a net benefit for us because he can't really go in on us. They've been coming at us and they've been killing us in the streets. They can't really do anything to us that they haven't been doing up until now. But what would happen is they'd start choosing other targets because we may be their top target, but we're not the only ones. A lot of you didn't understand when I said that, but now you're starting to realize, not just with DACA, but other things, you're starting to understand where I was coming from. Now you're starting to get it. See, you're never going to be able to survive the race war, much less be able to prevail in it, unless you can look at things from a cold, clinical, precise point of view. And you can't do that if you're scared, or if you're doing it based on anxiety, or your particular insecurities and hangups and dysfunction. So if you're one of those people who can't overcome your own myopia, your own mental blocks, and truth be told, for many, intellectual laziness, if you can't overcome that and think things through clearly, calmly, clinically, rationally, then perhaps you ought to listen to those of us who can and who always have. Donald Trump is a threat, but no more of a threat than Barack Obama or George W. Bush or Bill Clinton or the Congressional Black Talkers or the Supreme Court or your local mayor who you didn't choose. We are not being presented with new threats. The threat ain't changed. It's been the same thing for 500 years, rinse and repeat. What we are being presented with, though, is an opportunity here. Let the white supremacists get a little rowdy, show themselves for who and what they are, shake things up. We've had 50 years of a quasi-détente, as Dr. King put it, negative peace, where you have to be taught to suffer in silence. What we need is to go ahead and let people see that no, it's not hunky-dory here. All of that colorblind, we shall overcome, all of the faux, fake, phony progress. Nah, let's show everybody that's all been a sham. That's all been a lie. The war has been taking place against Black people. We just haven't been making any bones about it. We haven't been speaking out like we should have. Let's call it as it is. And by doing so, we can see the problems as they are, call them as they are, and face them down decisively. That depends on you. That depends on how much resolve you have. And whatever decision you make has to come from you. It can't be a matter of, well, the Democrats did something, so let me react to that. No, we aren't doing that. You know, in his book, The Art of War, Sun Tzu was talking about tactics to use to find out whether your opponent has some sort of overarching game plan. Does he have some sort of overriding strategy that he's following? And one of the things he talked about was how he had two particular armies, two particular groups of armed men from two different nations. And you had one group who was more or less the invader, I suppose. The other army staged a quickie attack, put some men out there. They wanted to see what would happen if they did this. And they did it for a reason. If the opposing army saw these enemy troops and immediately gave chase and decided to pursue them, what that meant was there was no overarching strategy. These guys were just out here catch as catch can. They were just basically improvising. That meant that there was no big idea, no overarching strategy. On the other hand, if they didn't give pursuit, if they instead just repelled the enemy attack and then got back in formation and resumed marching in the direction they had before, what that meant was they had a strategy. They were here for a specific purpose, and they were not going to be deterred from it. They were not going to let anyone blow them off course. See, that's what happens when you have an army that actually wants something. Who came up with a game plan before time? Who is disciplined and focused? The question, I suppose, is that our army? When we call ourselves the B1 Brigade, is that who and what we are? Because Kamala Harris is the first distraction, the first red herring, but you can be damn sure she's not going to be the last. And they're not going to be just throwing people at you. They'll see if they can come up with some fake, phony legislation, quote unquote. And don't expect the legislation to just go one way. They'll either try to come up with something they hope will be some sort of bait to get you to say, I got to vote for the Democrats so I can get me some goodies. Or if they can come up with something that hopefully you might feel threatened by. Well, truth be told, they've been attacking us 5 ways from Sunday, unless they actually do decide to come along and draft the official We Hate Niggers amendment to the Constitution. There's really not a whole lot they have in that regard. They don't have a whole lot of new that they can come up with, but that's not to say that the white media won't try to take some otherwise meaningless legislation that doesn't really do anything harmful to us, that doesn't really mean anything because it doesn't really turn up the heat. But Mitt Romney might come out of mothballs and say, well, we need to put some black people in jail. Yeah, because you haven't been doing that so far. And the white media will say, ooh, Donald Trump, he wants to put all the black people in jail. Yeah, because Barack Obama wasn't doing that. W wasn't doing it. Bill Clinton didn't create the modern prison industrial complex. I mean, nobody's actually had this idea before. So we should be scared if the white media tells us that Donald Trump's attacking us. Yeah, because everybody's been treating us so nicely up until now. You better see the con for what it is. Because Kamala Harris, she's going to drag out some of her puppets on her payroll. You've already seen some of them in my Twitter feed. These clowns are people who you don't know. This is who the Kamala Harris support base is. A bunch of fakers, frauds, and phonies whom you never heard of and ain't done a damn thing for you. Oh, but you should totally take their word for it that Kamala Harris is on your side. She's going to be a benefit to you. So some of these paid shills are going to claim that she helped them out of a jam or some other meaningless anecdotal example of how she's in our corner. But you know what? Donald Trump managed to have some pet Negroes vouch for him too, you recall. See, that's the game that's always been played, and both Democrats and Republicans alike have played it, or rather, they've played you. So, is it a brand new day? You say that it is, but that's not a question you can answer with words. It's a question you can only answer with actions. You keep saying it's a brand new day. Well, I'll believe it when you show it to me, and you cannot show it to me today. You cannot show me that this week. I'll be looking at your actions over the course of the next few decades. That will show me whether or not it's a brand new day, because the occasional lip service to the black community won't do, not anymore. We've never had knee-to-knee talks with Kamala Harris, and given the current climate within the black electorate, you better believe Kamala is looking and asking, can I have a nice group of nice black people who won't paint me into a corner and demand that I speak against the interest of the dominant society? Remember that video I put up about Roger Ailes and how back in the 1960s he was helping to stage manage Richard Nixon's so-called town halls? He would fill the studio audiences with a bunch of Republican voters who Roger Ailes already knew were not going to ask any tough questions. They would just give one softball after the next. I told you about that. And guess what? It's the same thing Hillary Clinton did. I told you what a sham it was when you had those alleged Black Lives Matter so-called protesters who came to a Hillary Clinton rally. She never met with anyone who's about black empowerment, but she wanted to meet with these young Black Lives Matters protesters. And here they were. They went from talking about Hillary Clinton, you're ignoring us, and police brutality and all the rest, to we want you to feel our passion. Whoa, it's all about your feelings? That was all fake. You need to be smart enough to understand when politicians hire people to do some agitprop for them. You need to be able to see through the scam. So politicians, Democrat, Republican, and otherwise, have pulled the old play of having some black front people out there to vouch for them. The question now is, are black people who are able to ignore Hillary Clinton going to be smart enough to ignore Kamala Harris and whoever or whatever comes after her? I want you to understand, this is going to be the new normal. It better be the new normal. If you want to survive, thrive, and prevail over white supremacy, this better be the new normal. We don't give a damn about what you say. Truth be told, we aren't terribly impressed with what you do. It's all about what we're going to get and what we are doing. Kamala Harris came to us completely empty-handed, and that's because she expects for us to hand her the presidency. This isn't about black people. It's all about what Kamala Harris thinks she's going to get for herself. This is not even a con job anymore. It's just a straightforward robbery. Give me the presidency. I think I deserve it. Nah, if it's all about Kamala Harris, then let Kamala Harris get the presidency for herself. Last time I checked, you can only vote for yourself one time. But as for those of us over here in the B1, those of us who are actually directing and guiding the real conversation for Black people who actually matter, you know, truth be told, the Pookies and Ray Rays, they're not really the ones who vote. We're the ones who vote. So the Black vote is going to go in the direction that we want it to, if we are consistent with the message, if we stay on point and stay on target. And right now, the first person that we're going to make a political example out of, just to let these white supremacist bastards know we mean business, is Kamala Harris. Whenever her name comes up, you heap scorn on her. And Black women, that must include you too. You need to be leading the charge. Make it clear you're not fooling us. Make it clear there's rules and regulations to get the Black vote. The same way that white voters are constantly paying attention and keeping a mental tally of how many times you mention Black people, we're keeping a mental tally too. How many times did you mention us? And when you talk about us, were you specific or were you vague? Because we will only support you to the extent that you support us. And even then, you need to be real about it. Even under the best of circumstances, even if the Democrats suddenly do an about face, they're only going to get support until we have gained enough power, wealth, and influence for ourselves that we will be able to field our own candidates. So our goal is to put white supremacy not merely on life support by starving it for Black votes. The goal is to put white supremacy into its grave, finally. And that's not going to happen as the result of supporting the right Democrat or even the right Democrat policies. It will only come when Black people are in the driver's seat. Anything and everything must be a stepping stone to that. We are not here to support the Democratic Party. We are here to support Black empowerment.
Well, he's got a point on that. And you're right, Brother Paris. This was a long video by Professor Black Truth. Brother Paris, you there? Okay, Brother Paris, are you there? Okay, Lady Che, are you there?
I'm sorry, y'all. I hit this, we ain't reach too damn hard, and it's probably,
okay, you got the fan in the background again.
I know, it's damn laptop. It's so bad. Like
yeah.
The fan is a crack, so that's why it's
okay.
So your thoughts on this special repost?
Okay, well, the professor was right about in everything that he says, as he usually is. Okay, and basically what it is boiling down to that we have said over the years is that we simply got to control our own economical basis. Okay, and then on top of that, we do have the talent to do it. But the question is, on a collective basis, is the group mindset that you have, you know, like with this all inclusionary shit, for us to get ahead is to be all inclusive, which is bullshit.
Right.
It's straight out bullshit, you know?
And then you see how old that video was about it.
Yeah, that video was every bit of 4 years old, if not 5.
Longer than that, so I'll go like 8.
No, okay. Oh yeah, that's right. When that idiot ran for president in 2016, yeah, so that would be 8 years. Yeah, that would be 8 years. And then the sad part about it is that this clown could run for re-election again in 2028. You know that, right?
No, Shabaka. We went over that on the Grand Rising. He can't run again under the current constitutional. Because it's like the 10th Amendment.
No, it'll be later than the 10th Amendment. Okay, it would have to be an amendment after Franklin Roosevelt's term.
It's like
I think the 25th Amendment.
25th Amendment. No, 25th
Yeah, wait, hold on. Let me pull it up here.
If the president becomes incapacitated, then the vice
Yeah, let's see. 25th Amendment. Okay.
I think it's 20th Amendment.
Okay, let's see here. Presidential succession and disability. Oh, okay. Okay. Clarifies the vice president becomes the president if the president kicks the bucket, resigns, or is removed from office by impeachment. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, hold on. I'm going to ask the computer. How many consecutive terms can the president?
You want to chime in on this? Or do you have something to say about the double deception?
Okay, okay, 2 consecutive terms as president. Okay. 22nd Amendment, 2-term limit on presidency. Constitution. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice, and no person who has held the office of president or acted as president for more than 2 years of a term which some other person was elected president shall be elected to the office of president more than, well, you see these no good motherfuckers and they bullshit, man. Okay, hold on. National Constitution Center. 2-term limit on presidency. No person shall be elected to the office of pres more than twice. And no person who has held the office of pres or acted as pres for more than 2 years of a term to which some other person was selected. President shall be elected to the office of president more than once, but this article should not apply to any person holding office of pres when this article was proposed by the Congress, and shall not prevent any person who may be holding office of pres or acting as pres during a term within which this article becomes operative from holding the office of pres or as acting pres during the remainder of each term. Okay. When did they ratify this bullshit? I think this is the one in the mid-60s they did.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was in the mid to sign up for, man, you and your goddamn, no, I ain't signing up for none of this bullshit. God damn. Get tired of a motherfucker always trying to sell me something. Okay. Now, the professor was right. It is a 3-ring circus. Kamala Harris, they did right, to paint over her. So probably what she's going to do is she's probably going to retire, okay? Because she's got 4 pin.
You missed this about her. They're going to try to run her again in 2028.
Well, it's a lost cause, man. I don't think that's going to happen.
They already
because
did a poll.
Newsom.
They already did a poll of Democrats who they thought would be.
Okay, so then she's going to have to go up against Gruesome Newsom because Gruesome Newsom is going to put his bid in for 2028.
Yeah,
okay.
Two. And then Joe Shapiro is 3.
Okay. So what will happen is it will probably be they're going to have a bunch of these hand-picked motherfuckers in 2028 if I'm still here. Then they're gonna rig it. Yeah. So which means is that they'll rig it for Kamala. Let me see. So her stinking ass would be 64 years old at that time. All right. So probably what would happen is that they will probably. Okay, wait a minute. Okay, because Kamala been a vice president 2 terms, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that knocks her out the way then. Wait a minute. Okay, so probably what will happen is they'll have Kamala going in as pres again. They'll probably have Newsom as the vice president.
One term as the vice president.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So when her ass hands over the electoral votes to the dump, okay, that'll be her last act as vice president in this term. So she could fuck around, run for president in 2028, okay, and then probably have Gruesome Newsom as the vice presidential candidate.
Yeah. And good old J.D. Vance on the other side.
Oh yeah, oh JD. Oh yeah, JD Vance, you know. And then if the dump gets rightfully convicted and removed from office, then they'll swear that bastard in. But we know that's not going to happen, is because, as you so well put it, Brother Che, that's in a perfect world. You know what I mean? Yeah. Now, our next thing here. All right.
So the next one is Kamala. Yeah, Mural. Painted over in Atlanta.
Okay. Kamala did what now? Her mural being painted over? Oh, well, that's great news. They should have threw shit at it. You know what I'm saying?
So today we're actually going to be talking about the mural of Kamala Harris that is just being painted over. Now, one thing I would say about the mural, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful work of art.
No, I like it. No, it's a work of art. What that man is doing right now, painting over that bullshit.
I thought it looked great. You know, I just feel like this. Even though the
when he finished painting over that raggedy motherfucker, it would look fantastic.
Why erase that? Just because they didn't win, why erase it from history? Why erase it from the community? If this is what was bringing the community together, if her existence, her running was bringing the community together with, you know, stopping all this infighting between men and women, even though looking online, it was still going on, but people were saying that people were getting closer together. Fine. You guys can align on several different issues and work together, be together in that regard. Why would you then say,
every time we try that bullshit, we lose.
Erase all of this? I just don't get it. You know, I just feel like if this is a person that stood behind,
I get it perfectly.
The person didn't win, but who's to say she's not going to say, hey, let me go and run for the next 4 years. On the next 4 years, let me go and run. Let me go and do this. Let me go and do that. Why not still support her in that regard, since that's who you wanted in there anyways,
that
which
raggedy
is fine.
motherfucker doing,
You know,
is
so
going
I
right
thought that
straight
this was
to
a bit
fucking
unnecessary
jail.
to just go out and say, okay, let's get the paint. Okay, what's going to match this wall? Okay, it's going to be brown paint. Let's just get it and start painting over it. I just felt like that was unnecessary. And this happened one day later. So this wasn't like, okay, it's been, 5 days now. Fine, I really don't want to, but the business was loaning us this wall or what. No, you guys are just like, okay, I'm just going to paint over it because I don't want to even have that as a remembrance at all, which I think is unnecessary. If she stood for certain values that you believed in or believe in still, why would you want to erase that? Why would you want to get rid of that? That's something I truly don't really understand. But I understand that people are upset.
They need to throw shit
People
at it.
wanted her to win, obviously. People felt like with the different things that she was running on, that she would have been the proper person for the job. Also being first Black female, that whole thing as well. That's something that, she was bringing, as Obama was doing, with the system that we have, and even combating even the gender thing as well. I just find it weird that people would immediately turn their back on this person that they claim so much so to support and claim how much they like this person. Yet now the person didn't win. It's like, okay, but she's still the vice president.
And
she still has some duties to do. It's not like she's just like, okay, I'm done. Now I'm gonna just move off to, I don't know, Barbados or something and chill out. It's like, no, she still is in a position of power. You could still support her even though she didn't win. You can still support her. You can still, talk about her in a positive light. It doesn't have to be like, okay, you didn't win, so now you're out of here. So I thought that was a bit weird and very much so unnecessary. But let me know what you all think about that story down below.
The crowd lost. Why?
Man. Emancipation Media.
Yeah, that's Uncle Phil's other platform.
Well, I see Uncle Phil making him some money.
All right, Shabaka, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, sir, that was a great thing that we saw right there, people. Excellent paint job of with the roller right there. Hopefully they're using bare paint that will last 20 years so it don't fade away and show that decrepit motherfucker again. Okay. Uh, she belongs in jail. Dereliction of duty. Okay. When the people of California had placed a measure on the ballot through the initiative process, she refused to let the voters to decide on it in the general election, which was to regulate how artificial intelligence and how these tech giants deal with your personal information.
Yeah, that's what Yang was trying to deal with.
Right. And Michael Yang, Andrew Yang, I'm sorry. Why do I keep calling him Michael Yang? But his name is Andrew Yang. And Andrew Yang had stated is that they make too much damn money off of social media where they should be sending every motherfucker around the world, man, $1,000 a month.
Yep.
For hijacking your shit, your personal information.
Yeah,
See? Yeah. And then Facebook putting up there all that damn advertisement. Oh, well, here are some things that we thought you might like. Walmart, drugstores, General Motors, Toyota. I mean, why would I go out here, buy devices, pay a monthly subscription, get a laptop to look at a bunch of fucking advertisements? And then when we try to advertise our shit, they shadow banned us. That, sir, is not equal protection under the law. But then again, who said that it was the law was equal when it comes to black people? Okay, Black Truth told you this here 6-7 years ago. So now, the next measure that we have right here, Trump picks for Attorney General Matt Gaetz. As you know, they kicked Matt Gaetz to the curb. So they're trying to draft another scrub, you know what I'm saying? And then the mayor of Baltimore falsely claims that black women are carrying the nation on their backs. Disgraceful Democrats triggered as illegal immigrant found guilty in Laken Riley murder. Yeah. He was found guilty a few days ago. I'm thinking they moving to kick dude off the planet. Yeah, they're moving to kick dude off the planet. You know what I'm saying? But when they execute black people who are otherwise innocent, okay. Yeah, you see, so, it's a double standard of this shit. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and sorry what happened to the young woman, Laken Riley. You know what I mean? And, but what about us? You see? There are never, nothing specifically addressed for black people. They want to put us in, and they want to put us, malign and neglect. They want to use marginal terms, people of color, all inclusive, but nothing specifically for us. So this is why we need tangibles, something you could see, something that you could feel, something that you could implement into a course of action. That is what something tangible is. Not a bunch of bullshit ass lip service by all these fucking Yasa bosses up here. Well, oh, Master Trump, I just love you. The day of that zip-diddy-doo-dah, zip-diddy-day. My, I got plenty of nothing and nothing's plenty for me. That bullshit is over with. You know what I mean?
All right, Shabaka, let me move to the next topic because we're just like all over the place. So the next topic is, that's not the next topic, it's about it. The next topic is the Congressional Black Caucus. Selling out black people.
Right.
AIPAC.
Oh yeah. Yeah. All-inclusive.
At the 58th and I-25 Furniture Row, we have a thing about more. More than 85,000 square feet. More than 100 mattresses. More than one.
Fuck the commercial.
This story is a must. Stop what you're doing, because I'm about to ruin. This story right here. Shout out to Roger Meadows for sending this video to me, because I have been trying to tell people for the longest time. I have a video on my channel where it's Cory Booker and it says exposed on the thumbnail. I have been warning people about black politicians working, hand in hand with AIPAC, with Israel, while choosing to prioritize Israel and AIPAC and not prioritize the black community. I have been trying to get people to pay attention, and specifically to the Congressional Black Caucus. The Congressional Black Caucus is not helping the black community. The Congressional Black Caucus has been helping Israel. They've been helping AIPAC. They will help anybody but us. But they are bought and paid for by AIPAC. So once you understand this, and once you see this video, you will understand why nothing is getting done for the black community. They're not passing any bills for the black community. That so-called reparations bill that people keep asking Jim Clyburn about, which actually isn't real reparations, there is a reason why they are not moving on these pieces of legislation. They don't intend to. They exist there in Congress only for symbolic reasons and for you to think that you have representation when you do not.
Yes, I call it
Friend of the show, Roger Meadows, sent this to me. This was on Phil Scott's show. I don't know if you guys follow Phil Scott. If not, you should check him out. We don't agree on everything, but we agree on enough. I want you to hear what AIPAC says here about the black politicians that they not only recruit, but they also seek out. I warned you, they were looking for people not just in college, but also when they are in high school. They start early. Listen to what they say.
So I think you know that AIPAC is both a grassroots organization.
For us, why?
I'm sorry, guys. I don't know why this video. Why I did that. Here we go.
And also a leadership empowerment organization. So a particular concern to us are not African Americans, but those African Americans.
Let me go back.
Let's go down and cue this up real quick. Let me go find the clip. Okay, all right. So let's go ahead and cue this up. Listen closely.
So I think you know that AIPAC is both a grassroots organization and also a leadership empowerment organization. So a particular concern to us are not African Americans, but those African Americans that will be part of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Pause. So here is AIPAC letting you know that they're not really interested in what black people need. They're not interested in the black community. They're not interested in these African Americans. But what they're interested in is recruiting black Americans that will be a part of the Congressional Black Caucus. Does anyone not find that to be problematic? They're not thinking about your needs. They ain't thinking about no damn reparations. They're not thinking about what the black community needs. They're just thinking about recruiting black people to be a part of the Congressional Black Caucus. Let's continue.
Those African Americans that will be governors, those African Americans that will be part of the cabinet of successive administrations. And we have been rather successful in identifying young, emerging political leaders, sometimes when they're in their teens, sometimes when they're on college campuses, sometimes when they're just getting into state politics, and sometimes when they first emerge as congressional candidates. AIPAC built a relationship with Barack Obama before he was a president, before he was a presidential candidate, before he was a U.S. senator. We built a relationship with him before he was in the Illinois State House.
Pause. Everybody pay attention to what they just said. They built a relationship with Barack Obama before he was even in the Illinois State House. These people were selected. They win a majority of their races. The candidates that have the backing and support of AIPAC are more likely to win. AIPAC has a video they've created, it's on social media, where they're talking about, they're bragging about how they win most of their races. When I tell you these people were selected, they were selected. When I told you that they recruit, certain people recruited, they're recruited. You think they're there for you, they're not. They are purposely going out for, let's get the black people.
Yeah,
so black American voters will come out and vote for them because they look like them, even though we're going to make sure they don't do anything for them. These people are puppets. That's Obama. That's Cory Booker. That's Hakeem Jeffries.
Facts,
all of these people, they're puppets. Jim Clyburn is a puppet.
He's
he has convinced people that all he needs to do for you is host a fish fry. That when it comes to legislation, he don't really got to push nothing for the black community because that's not what he's there for anyway. He's not there to serve you.
I got plenty of nothing.
He's just there to make you think you have representation. He can say, I look like you. And as long as you think I look like you and that's enough, I ain't really got to do nothing for you. Puppets.
Yeah, she's telling the truth. Mac 285.
Now you know. What did I tell you about Barack Obama? Now you hear it from their mouth. He was chosen. He was selected. They got him before he was in the State House. Think about that.
The relationship we built with Sarah Palin was before she was mayor. The groups that we are most excited about bringing to Israel for the first time would be the national, state, and local leaders of the College Republican National Committee and the College Democrats of America. And the fact that we bring them to Israel together, lock them in a bus, don't let them come down from the top of Masada until they understand the importance of working together, may be one of our only hedges against the breakdown of bipartisanship that we're witnessing today.
Talking loud.
Did you hear him say lock them in a bus?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to hear the whole thing what the gentleman had to say from AIPAC.
Talking loud.
And I'm going to play this again, not the whole thing, but it's just a part that I'm one part I'm also concerned about, or what we need to listen to. So let's go ahead and play it again and just listen very closely. I'm gonna stop at a certain point.
So I think you know that AIPAC is both a grassroots organization and also a leadership empowerment organization. So a particular concern to us are not African Americans.
Right.
Okay. So he said, listen, our concern isn't the black community and what they got going on. He clearly said that. They're not worried about us whatsoever. I want to make sure we putting that out there. They're not worried about us as a group, but as you continue to hear, what they are concerned about is make sure they can spot and cherry pick those among us that's going to be in any kind of political leadership. Why is that? Why get to them young? Why get to them before they actually get really developed politically? You know, the thing is they have to try to, the best thing they all do, it's not just AIPAC, it's all of them, that they have to separate you from your people.
Yep.
Because if you can't take a politician that come from the grassroots and say, nah, bro, I'm fighting for my community. The Democrat Party would never put money behind anybody who's going to fight for black people.
Does everybody hear that?
Yep.
These are lessons to take home with you. Write this down. This is a little bit of homework. This is why you don't see a lot of the black activists running for office. This is why. They will never let you get through. They'll never let you. Who's the young woman in Congress, the young black woman that is on everybody's show, and she called MTG the bleach blonde baby or whatever? Did she call her like bleach blonde? Was it Jasmine Crockett or whatever?
Yeah, okay. That's who it was.
Where you think she came from?
Fuck the commercial, fuck the commercial, fuck Cooler, fuck the commercial, pay us.
You think they don't have a hold of her too? These people didn't just appear out of nowhere. I told you, Hakeem Jeffries was losing to Charles Barron. He was losing to Charles Barron, a Black Panther. Next thing you know, Charles Barron gets the smear thrown towards him. Everybody, the same smear you saw with Jill Stein. David Duke endorses Charles Barron. So like I said before, David Duke is an op. Next thing you know, Hakeem Jeffries.
David Duke is a Klansman.
And that's how Hakeem Jeffries got the seat that he's sitting in right now. Hakeem Jeffries takes a lot of money from AIPAC. So again, he didn't get there on his own. Most of their candidates win. I want you to second guess all these people, all these candidates that are part of the Congressional Black Caucus. I want you to second guess all of them.
No, sister, you're right.
Look up their funding on Open Secrets.
The rule in politics for black politicians, you can't punish white people and you can't help black people. That is the two rules for black politicians. Period. So definitely you can't help black people. You better not even think about helping black people. You can help immigrants, migrants that just came here yesterday. You can do something for LGBT. You can do something for anybody you want to. And I'm gonna even say you can't even do a whole lot for black immigrants either. Maybe you can give them a little bit, but you better not be really giving them resources like the Venezuelans been getting. Look, if you really look at those shelters, look at who really getting all those resources. It's not the African immigrants or the Caribbean immigrants. It's the ones from Venezuela and El Salvador and all of them. Y'all really pay attention to that. It's not the black immigrants getting all those resources from the Democrats. But let me go ahead and continue this.
But those African Americans that will be part of the Congressional Black Caucus, those African Americans that will be governors, those African Americans that will be part of the cabinet of successive administrations. And we have been rather successful in identifying young, emerging political leaders, sometimes when they're in their teens.
Sometimes when they're in their teens. This is what I'm trying to tell you. Most of these people did not get there by accident. They didn't just wake up one day and say, hey, I think I might want to run for office. They've been recruited. Most of them have been recruited. They are able to identify them when they're teenagers. So they're going after, if you're parents, they're going after your kids. They're going after them when they're identifying them when they're in high school.
Sometimes when they're on college campuses.
All right. So he talked about your Congressional Black Caucus, how they want to know who's going to be in the Congressional Black Caucus, and definitely they want to focus on the people that's still there right now.
Yeah, Obama was groomed.
That's their focus. That's who they want to work on. Now, we know the Congressional Black Caucus is an entity that has not done a freaking thing, and not to say another word, for Black America. They haven't done a thing. They have not advocated for a bill for Black Americans. They haven't said, hey, we're not voting on a single bill in Congress unless you put up this anti-Black hate crime bill. They never said we're going to protest any other bill you have if you don't do something about reparations. They won't even come out as a group talking about reparations. They won't say a word about reparations at all.
Nope.
They are the most do-nothing group that we see. But we'll see the Congressional Black Caucus talking about what AIPAC want them to talk about. We'll see the Congressional Black Caucus talking about immigrants. You're going to see the Congressional Black Caucus speaking against Trump and mass deportations. Watch. Because they were doing that the last time when Trump was in office. It's wrong. He's deporting all these people. Oh, it's wrong. But they don't say nothing about Black people. Prime example. Look at how Sonia Massey was killed. Where's the Congressional Black Caucus? Where were they at? Every time something happens to a Black person, they're quiet. They don't say anything. They got this big group of do-nothing Black politicians who are only there to keep the status quo. What's the status quo? Keeping Black people at the bottom and the folks at the top.
Everybody write that down and take that with you. The reason why the Clyburns, the Hakeem Jeffries, those that are part of the Congressional Black Caucus, the Cory Bookers, the reason why they got where they are is part of it because AIPAC already sought them out, but also because they maintained the status quo. This is important, guys. This is why I tell you, liberals protect the status quo. Liberals want a little bit of reform, but they want the system to not be destroyed. They don't want you to burn down the house. They don't want, and some of this will tell you this too, as much as they say we need criminal justice reform, many of them don't even really want police full accountability. These are the kind of things that are said in private. So their idea of criminal justice reform was let's give them body cams, but many of them ain't really trying to, they ain't trying to rock the boat. They're not trying to dismantle the system. They want the system to remain the same, but they want a couple of reforms. So they don't want to tear something down and build something new. This is why like a Fred Hampton, this is why someone like a Malcolm X wouldn't have been able to make it into Congress, because Fred Hampton told you this system weren't shit, and he made it very clear to you that the government was not going to take care of the people. Let's take care of ourselves. We're going to do this through mutual aid. We're going to build up our own communities. Malcolm X knew, and they were killed. Both of them were killed. So Jim Clyburn, Hakeem Jeffries, as much as they pretend that they care about what's happening to the Black community, at the end of the day, you have to understand they're a part of it all. That's why you rarely hear them speak up. Who are they? This is who they are. So you can see for yourself. Don't run and hide from Sabby. Show them your face. These are the members of the Congressional Black Caucus. We ain't got to go through everybody's name, but we're going to point out a few. And if you live in their district, you let me know what they did for you. Maxine Waters. Maxine Waters was on camera about a year or two ago telling people to go home. She told homeless people to go home.
Yeah, that was disgraceful.
When they showed up to get vouchers. James Clyburn, Mr. Fish Fry, who yelled at Black activists when they asked him about the reparations bill. Get out of my face. What you talking about?
They all need to retire.
These are some of these people you probably don't even know. Bobby, I don't even know who the hell you are. But some of the ones that you do know, Barbara Lee, she can be good on some issues, but a lot of times in the end, she end up going with the status quo too. You know, she show up every now and then and take a stand and then sit right back down. That's Barbara Lee. We'll continue to go down the list. Look at all the people. Hakeem Jeffries, the greatest bougie ass kissing token of them all. Hakeem Jeffries knows better. Hakeem Jeffries knows about radicalism. He knows that the Black community is obviously underserved and needs a lot of things. But you rarely hear Hakeem Jeffries talk about it. Every time I see Hakeem Jeffries in an interview, how often do you hear him talking about, here's what we can do to help the Black community? How often? And I'm not talking about that little sit down that he had with Jamal Bowman about let's make hip hop a holiday. Hakeem Jeffries is there to virtue signal too. Don't get it twisted. Don't think that just because he has the same complexion that he's there fighting for the Black community. He's not. Hip hop day. Get out of here. You got Frederica S. Wilson. She's another one that has greatly taken advantage of Black people. And some of you are wondering, how do they continue to win? You know how they win? Because most Black people don't vote. You know how they win? White liberals. So I'm gonna need for you to tell the white liberals, if you live in their districts, the white liberals in those districts, I'm gonna need for you guys to let them know, why are you supporting these people when they are not helping the Black community? White people, I'm gonna say something to you too. If you're white and you live in their district and you've been supporting them, stop supporting them. Oh, well, what is happening here? That's how they get in. It's the same thing with Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn ain't winning because he doing a great job. Black people ain't rushing out to vote for him. Marcel Dixon told you he been on this show multiple times. And Marcel Dixon let you know that it's white liberals who are coming out to support Jim Clyburn. So we got to talk to everybody. We can't just talk to other Black people. We got to talk to our white comrades as well and tell them they are not helping the Black community. Let's go on. Here's Cory Booker, the biggest sellout of them all. Takes a lot of money from AIPAC. Him and Hakeem Jeffries take a lot. Cory Booker, Mr. I went to Stanford. I played. Now, Cory Booker will be the first one to let you know how his parents were discriminated against when they were trying to buy a house in New Jersey because of the color of their skin. He's told that story so many times. But how often is Cory Booker out there pushing legislation to help the Black community? Do not come back to me and say, well, he moved to Newark to live in the projects to help the people there. That was before he got into Congress, goddammit. Once he got into Congress, it was done.
Remember, he was
it's a woman.
And I don't really care too much for people, cosplaying. Like, I don't really like people cosplaying poor, Like, Cory Booker was not poor. He grew up in a nice suburb in New Jersey. He went to Stanford, and then he decided, let me go move in the projects in Newark to show the people I can be one of them so that I can win. That's when he was local politicians.
He was the mayor of Newark.
And they'll know that I'm one of them. I don't like cosplay poor. I don't like it, okay? Stop it. Rich people, wealthy people, stop moving to poor neighborhoods and pretending that you're poor. You move in and you jack up the damn price anyway. Get out of here. Stop cosplaying poor. So there's that. Cory Booker. Who else we got here? Stacey Plaskett, Miss Friend with Jeffrey Epstein Plaskett. She also a part of the Congressional Black Caucus. What is she doing? What is she doing?
Nothing.
What is she doing? The woman who took money from Epstein? Who are the people that are supposed to be representing the Black? Ayanna Pressley, don't even get me started. Ayanna Pressley, you might be good on some issues sometime, but really, I told you she was the one that was never anywhere near as left as the other Justice Democrats. You just like the Black Elizabeth Warren to me. And I can say that because I lived in her district. So it just is. I have just so many things to say. Ilhan Omar. A lot of the Somali community don't like Ilhan. So what this time? Look! Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. Cori Bush used to do a lot for her community, but part of the reason she lost her re-election was because of AIPAC. The other part of the reason was the people in the community said they stopped seeing her come around. So I can't. Richie Torres, we don't know who you are. You claim to be progressive. You fight more for Israel than you do for the Bronx in your district. You don't give a damn about those people. The Bronx is the poorest borough in New York City. And I'll never hear Richie Torres talking about the Bronx. Every time I see this man's face, he on TV talking about what we can do for Israel. So AIPAC bought these people. So if you wonder why they're not helping you, now you know. They are willing to do what they can. And Jamal Green puts this so well. Jamal Green is trying to let you know the old guard has got to go. Clyburn needs to retire. Like a lot of these people, Clyburn, Barbara Lee, Frederica, all these people need to retire.
285, yeah.
Because
Thank you,
are not helping the Black community. And I'm not a politician, but I help through mutual aid. You're a politician. These guys have more followers on Twitter than I do. They have a bigger platform than I do. How come you never around? But when it's time for you to go up there and speak for Israel, you front and center. Front and center. Jamal Green puts it so well.
I'm sorry, some of y'all not gonna like this video, but I gotta tell y'all the truth. The reason why Black people will continue suffering in this country is because we allow Black gatekeepers to act like they represent us, and they don't move forward an agenda that actually represents us. You gotta understand that these folks that they paying, Oprah, Al Sharpton, Roland Martin, Jesse Jackson, they do not represent the community.
Fuck Al Sharpton, fuck Jesse Jackson.
We can step back, we can respect their work, we can pay homage, we can do all that. But there's no reason why Black folks, while we're in a state of emergency, we have the lowest amount of wealth in this country, the lowest amount of homeowners in this country, the most illiterate children on the data sheet, the dying at number one in mostly all of the chronic diseases in this country. We are at war, and we don't have time to keep on allowing these Black gatekeepers who won't pass the torch, the Black gatekeepers who act like they represent us and don't move forward a real agenda for us because they don't even know what we need. They don't come in our communities. They don't work in our communities. We need real people that are on the ground that actually get the support. Support the young business owners, the young activists, the young politicians, the young media people who actually can connect with the people of today. If we don't pass the damn torch and get rid of these old guard gatekeepers, and I'm not saying old to be disrespectful, I'm just letting you know that their time has come to an end.
The motherfuckers is old. They too goddamn old. He's right. Shit.
I agree with Jamal so well. They are holding a lot of people back. But again, they're there by design. I would like to know what Maxine Waters has done for people in her district all this time that she's been in Congress, especially since she told homeless people to go home.
In the Black community in the 80s and early 90s, but other than that, that was it.
Pay attention to what is happening. Pollster Frank Luntz has done a number of interviews post-election.
Investigation to the crack epidemic.
And on multiple interviews, he's asked, what do you think should be the next best strategy? And I noticed something that Frank Luntz has said. He said, I think the Democratic Party should go with someone like Cory Booker.
And controlling our industries in our community. And
he even said he thinks Cory Booker could beat Donald Trump. Cory Booker can't beat Donald Trump. I listened to Cory Booker's speech in New Hampshire in 2020 when he was running through the Democrat primary back then. Cory Booker was so damn fake. 2, I thought his eyes was going to jump out of his head. 3, there was an older gentleman in the audience who said, you sound just like Barack Obama. You're seeing some of the same things that Barack Obama said when he came here and he stood in front of us too. In other words, the man was trying to let him know he was fake. Fake it and fake. There's nothing that comes out of Cory Booker's mouth that I trust. I don't trust his eyes either. So there's that. Why would Frank Luntz say it should be Cory Booker? He should be the leader of the party. He can beat Trump. Cory Booker can't beat Trump. But why would he pick Cory Booker? Why would he name him? Because Cory Booker is an AIPAC puppet. And according to Max Blumenthal, so is Frank Luntz. Pay attention to who is recommended. and then look them up on Open Secrets and see if they're taking money from AIPAC. The Congressional Black Caucus is a joke.
Yeah.
They don't do anything for us.
Never
and
have,
some of these,
never
like
will.
Jamal said, some of these old tired heads need to retire, and they need to step aside, and they need to let younger people and younger energy that are not bots and that are part of the grassroots take the lead.
Right.
Hey guys, this was a savvy clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.
Do the same Front Line Blacc news.
Yeah. Okay, so who's that there? Savvy Sab's video clip. Please do the same thing for Frontline Blacc News, ladies and gentlemen. Definitely check out Shabaka's Black Experience Enhanced this Tuesday night, coming up 6 p.m. In the Pacific, 9 p.m. in the East. We have our guest, the one and only Mr. Yanga Nkrumah. All right. So definitely get with us, people. The number to call in is 516-418-5996. Also, too, all idiots will be booted off the air. You come with constructive conversation. Let's build on something. You're more than welcome. But when we get idiots, we got the eject button for you. And listen to some of our back episodes on Blog Talk. Leave us a comment. Follow us on Stinky Bird at Shabaka EXP. The reason why I call Twitter Stinky Bird, because the dude's name is Musk. And the only thing I know when it comes to Musk, it stinks.
Yes, it does, Shabaka. It definitely does. All right, so we're gonna get to the dumps cabinet picks next, Shabaka.
All right, and that is gonna be my last segment, Brother Chad. Gotta conserve, this data, and we're gonna be checking on that. There's, man, we got a whole lot of work we gotta do, man. These cabinet picks are very suspect. The son of a bitch you got standing right there is a goddamn suspect who deserves to go right straight to fucking jail. He's a goddamn suspect. Shit.
Shout out to Torian Man Reloaded, who's going to give us the update on the dumps cabinet picks.
57, Lamiko, Mika 40, RBJ, Mahako, Till Dog, Perspective, Kira, and Scotty. Shout out to each and every one of you. We got 46 people in here. Make sure, if you haven't done so already, to smash that like button. I'm not going to waste too much time. We're going to get right into it because it's the first article is literally the names of all the people that Trump picked and a brief rundown of their resume. As a matter of fact, the article got updated today, and I actually had it saved in my inbox. I sent it to myself as a DM on X like last week, and it got updated today because some names got removed and some names got added. But we're going to go through all of these people and their, I guess you can say their resume, if you want to call it that, and see what they hitting on, which probably ain't much. But this is coming from News Nation. Like I said, I got it last week, but it was updated today. So the title reads, Donald Trump's new administration. Who has he chosen so far? Well, I can answer that question. A lot of unqualified people. That's who he picked so far.
Right.
So let's go through it. Republican President-elect Donald Trump is rapidly filling his new administration with high-ranking nominations announced almost every day since his win. On Sunday, Trump posted that former U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Tom Homan would be joining as the quote-unquote border czar. And the next day, he said his former advisor, Stephen Miller, would be deputy chief of policy. Other rapid-fire appointments include billionaire ally Elon Musk and former rival Ramen Noodle to lead the new Department of Government Efficiency. And when I found that out, I was like, what in the hell is a Department of Government Efficiency? And I find it very interesting, too, that the acronym is DOGE, which also was the acronym for Dogecoin. Y'all remember Dogecoin and how everybody was going crazy about that? I find it ironic that that's the abbreviation for that. Together, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as the head of the Department of Health and Human Services. And then it goes down. Now, this is a laundry list right here that we're about to read. Here are major names Trump has selected to join his organization. J.D. Vance, of course, we know who he is. You know, he's the news vice president. Susie Wiles, Stephen Miller, Tom Homan, Elise Stefanik, Lee Zeldin, Mike Waltz, Marco Rubio, Kristi Noem, Mike Huckabee, Stephen C. Wickoff, John Ratcliffe, William McGinley, Pete Hegseth, and we're going to talk about that Pete Hegseth because that man is shady as shit. He is. He just is. Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Jake Clayton, Todd Blanche, Doug Burgum, Caroline Leavitt, William Owen Sharf, Chris Wright, Brendan Carr, Sean Duffy, Howard Lutnick, Mehmet Oz or Dr. Oz, Linda McMahon, and there's some shady stuff that came out about Linda too. We're gonna get to that too. Matthew Whitaker, Doug Collins, Sergio Gore, Stephen Chung, Pete Hoekstra, Pam Bondi. She's the one that Trump just picked to replace Matt Gaetz. Kelly Loeffler. Other appointments, and it says who won't be on Trump's team. They got a whole category for people who won't be on there. I think we pretty much know who they are. So those are all the people right here that have been selected to be on Trump's team. Now, that's just the list. Now we're going to go and read through their credentials one by one. That's why I said y'all better sit tight because we're going to be here for a while. It's Friday. The weekend's coming up. Why not? Let's start with J.D. Vance. Senator J.D. Vance was chosen to be Trump's running mate in July, with Trump announcing him as the Republican National Convention kicked off in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The Republican from Ohio gained national prominence through his best-selling memoir, Hillbilly Elegy. During his time in the Senate, Vance, who was once one of Trump's biggest critics, later became one of the fiercest defenders of Trump's Make America Great Again agenda, especially when it comes to foreign policy, trade, and immigration. In 2021, he secured Trump's endorsement during the Senate primary to fill the vacancy left by retiring Republican Senator Rob Portman. Vance then won the general Senate race against Democratic candidate Tim Ryan and then took office in January 2023. Perspectives that I'm glad we're going to be here for. Oh, yeah, because I got more stuff to show y'all besides just this list. So y'all got to think. All the names that I just read, they all have a write-up just like the one I just read for J.D. Vance, and those were a lot of names. Then I got individual articles on certain people. Of course, I got one on Matt Gaetz because I know y'all going to hear about Matt Gaetz because of what recently happened with him. So y'all better lock in. We y'all better get real comfortable. Y'all better be sitting in a very comfortable spot. Get yourself out of them hard chairs.
Matt Gaetz.
Susie Wiles for White House Chief of Staff. Susie Wiles is a longtime Republican strategist and the leader of Trump's 2024 campaign who worked alongside the president-elect in 2016. Wiles will be the first woman to be a White House Chief of Staff since her start as a scheduler for Ronald Reagan's 1980 presidential campaign. She also worked for Senator Rick Scott, Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, and former Governor of Utah, John Huntsman. She is the daughter of the late NFL player turned broadcaster Pat Summerall. Susie is tough, smart, innovative, and universally admired and respected, Trump said. Susie will continue to work tirelessly to make America great again. It is a well-deserved honor to have Susie as the first ever female chief of staff in United States history. I have no doubt that she will make our country proud. Now, I want y'all to listen to the verbiage that's being said here, especially with her and what Trump just said, her being the first female this. To all the people that love to peddle DEI this, DEI that, why didn't y'all say that for her? Because is she not a woman? Yes, we know she's a white woman, but she's still a woman. And wouldn't she fall under the category of DEI? Don't worry, y'all. There's a lot of DEI stuff going on here. If we're going by their rhetoric, it's a lot flowing through these picks. That's one right there. Honestly, all of them could be categorized as DEI picks because many of them are either friends with this man or they're loyal to him. That does not qualify you if you are not qualified for the job. You do not go around just saying, oh, you like me. Oh, you're my friend. I'm going to put you there. What happened to picking the best person for the job?
Right. Yeah, what happened?
Let's continue. Stephen Miller. Now, we all know about Stephen Miller. We all have heard of Stephen Miller and the stuff that he has said, especially about us. But let's see what they talking about with him. Miller is one of Trump's longest-serving aides, a senior advisor in Trump's first term who crafted many of the president-elect's speeches. The Associated Press reports Miller had been a central figure in many of his policy decisions, including the move to separate thousands of immigrant families as a deterrence program in 2018. After Trump left office, Miller became president of America First Legal, which the AP says was fashioned as a conservative version of the American Civil Liberties Union that challenged the Biden administration, media companies, universities, and others. Tom Homan, the border czar. Homan, as border czar, is expected to make deportation a top priority. At the Republican National Convention, he said that he had a message to the millions of undocumented migrants in the country. You better start packing now. As acting director of ICE from January 2017 through June 2018, Homan backed Trump's zero-tolerance policy at the border in his first term, which resulted in thousands of families being separated at the southern border. He previously said that workplace raids would resume in the Trump administration. Before joining ICE, Homan was a police officer in West Carthage, New York, and later had positions as a Border Patrol agent, investigator, and supervisor.
Wow.
Former Democratic President Barack Obama appointed Homan to be the Executive Associate Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement in 2013. Homan retired as acting ICE Director in 2018 and hear this, y'all. Are y'all ready for this? Listen to this. Homan retired as acting ICE Director in 2018 and joined the Heritage Foundation, where he contributed to its Project 2025. Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard of the Heritage Foundation. I'm going to put my 1 right there. There's my 1. Elise Stefanik, UN ambassador. Representative Elise Stefanik, Trump's pick for ambassador to the United Nations, was elected to the House of Representatives at the age of 30 in 2014, making her the youngest woman elected to Congress in United States history at the time. She currently serves as chair of the House Republican Conference, a position she was chosen for when former Wyoming Representative Liz Cheney was removed from the post after publicly criticizing Trump for falsely claiming he won the 2020 election. I am honored to nominate Chairwoman Elise Stefanik to serve in my cabinet as U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations. Elise is an incredibly strong, tough, and smart America First fighter. Stefanik said she had a conversation with Trump where she told him how deeply humble she was to accept the nomination. I stand ready to advance President Donald J. Trump's restoration of America First peace through strength leadership on the world stage on day 1 at the United Nations. Lee Zeldin, EPA Administrator. Attorney Lee Zeldin was chosen Monday to be Trump's administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. From 2015 to 2023, he served New York's 1st Congressional District as a U.S. representative, and he ran for governor of the state in 2022, losing to current Democratic Governor Kathy Hochul. Zeldin was on active duty in the United States Army for 4 years and is currently a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserve. Lee, with a very strong legal background, has been a true fighter for America First policies. He will ensure fair and swift regulatory decisions that will be enacted in a way to unleash the power of American businesses while at the same time maintaining the highest environmental standards, including the cleanest air and water on the planet. Zeldin said on X that it is an honor to join the administration. We will restore U.S. energy dominance, revitalize our auto industry to bring back American jobs, and make the U.S. the global leader of AI. Zeldin said, we will do so while protecting access to clean air and water. Mike Waltz, national security advisor. Trump has tapped Representative Mike Waltz of Florida to be his national security advisor, according to multiple reports. Waltz, a Green Beret combat vet and longtime Trump surrogate, has held office in his native Florida since 2019, when he took over DeSantis' post in the state's 6th congressional district. The 50-year-old has called for Europe to do more to support Ukraine and for the U.S. to be more stringent with its support, aligning with the key foreign policy goal of the president-elect. He has also been a staunch critic of the Biden administration 2021 withdrawal from Afghanistan. The position doesn't require Senate confirmation, meaning Waltz will assume his role as soon as Trump is inaugurated. Trump went through multiple national security advisors during his first term. Michael Flynn was in the role for just a few weeks before resigning amid controversy over his conversations with Russia. Others to hold the post included H.R. McMaster, John Bolton, and Robert O'Brien. Marco Rubio. Now, here's a face and name we all are familiar with. Secretary of State. Trump has chosen Senator Marco Rubio of Florida to be his Secretary of State, saying that he will be a strong advocate for our nation, a true friend to our allies, and a fearless warrior. The longtime politician, age 53, will serve as the 47th president's top diplomat. He's considered one of the most conservative senators in Congress, despite his position on immigration reform having diverged from the party's consensus at one point. In terms of foreign policy, Rubio supported U.S. interventions in Iraq and Libya and has been supportive of sanctions against Iran. He has warned against China's influence in the global sphere, supporting higher tariffs to limit the country's ability to export cheaper products into the U.S. Rubio has served as the senior United States Senator for the Sunshine State since 2011. Before that, he was Speaker of the Florida House of Representatives from 2006 to 2008. Despite a rivalry with Trump during the 2016 GOP primaries, Rubio has been a steadfast Trump supporter since the president-elect's first term. Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary. Trump has chosen South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to serve as the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security during his second term. Noem had said Friday that Democratic governors who have pledged to resist Trump's immigration policies are being extremely irresponsible and should seek dialogue with the incoming administration. She has been supportive of the Justice Department's decision to suspend investigations into Trump, saying it was a good first step toward restoring faith in federal law enforcement agencies. So guess what? That keyword, those keywords right there, she has been supportive of the Justice Department decision to suspend investigations into Trump. As governor, Noem has faced ups and downs with tribal governments in South Dakota. She offered emergency assistance after flooding in 2019, moved the State Office of Indian Education from the State Department of Education to the State Department of Tribal Affairs, has been banned from many of the 9 reservations at different times, and shifted funding so the state's law enforcement training program could conduct the first ever class for tribal officers this year. Mike Huckabee, another person that I'm sure y'all are familiar with, ambassador to Israel.
And his
Trump announced Tuesday he will
daughter.
nominate former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee as ambassador to Israel. Huckabee served as governor from 1996 to 2007 and ran for president in the 2008 and 2016 Republican primaries. Calling Huckabee a great public servant, governor, and leader in faith for many years, Trump said in a statement, he loves Israel and the people of Israel, and likewise the people of Israel love him. His daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, is the current governor of Arkansas. So in case y'all didn't know who Mike Huckabee was, that is Sarah Huckabee Sanders' father. Next, we have Stephen Wickoff. I think I remember seeing him when KG was playing the GOP the thing back in July. I think I remember him. Special envoy to the Middle East. In a statement obtained by News Nation, Trump nominated businessman Stephen Wickoff as special envoy to the Middle East. Steve is a highly respected leader in business and philanthropy who has made every project and community he has been involved with stronger and more prosperous. Steve will be an unrelenting voice for peace and make us all proud. Witkoff, a real estate investor and founder of the Witkoff Group, is the president-elect's golf partner. He was with Trump at his golf club in West Palm Beach, Florida, when a second attempt was made on the Republicans' life back in September. Trump also tagged Witkoff to co-chair his inaugural committee alongside Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia. John Ratcliffe, director of the CIA. Put a 1 in the chat if y'all are learning some stuff this evening. Put a 1 in the chat if this is informative to you. Trump has tapped his former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, to serve as director of the Central Intelligence Agency. From exposing fake Russian collusions to be a Clinton campaign operation to catching the FBI's abuse of civil liberties at the FISA court, John Ratcliffe has always been a warrior for truth and honesty. Keep in mind how many times they keep using the word warrior in these descriptions of these individuals. With the American public, when 51 intelligence officials were lying about Hunter Biden's laptop, there was one, John Ratcliffe, telling the truth to the American people, the president-elect said in a statement. Before he replaced Dan Coats to be Trump's highest-ranking intelligence official, Ratcliffe served as a representative in Texas from 2019 to 2020. Next, William Bill McGinley, White House counsel. Bill McGinley, an attorney who served in Trump's first term as White House cabinet secretary, will hold another role in the president-elect's upcoming administration. Trump announced McGinley as White House counsel Tuesday, praising him as a smart and tenacious lawyer who will help me advance our America First agenda. He served in my first term as White House cabinet secretary and played a major role in our election victory as the RNC's outside counsel for election integrity. Bill has served as general counsel at the National Republican Senatorial Committee and has been partner at 2 international law firms and will work with me as we make America great again, the announcement from Trump reads. Now, this person right here, Peter Hegseth, this is the one of the many that I want y'all to keep a very, very, very close eye on. Especially after some stuff that I learned about him yesterday in a quote that he made. But this Peter Hegseth guy, y'all better make sure you keep that name and this face ingrained in your mind going forward. Secretary of Defense. Trump nominated Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense Tuesday, appointing the 44-year-old Fox and Friends co-host to be the nation's principal defense policymaker. You picked a former Fox News host to be your Secretary of Defense? Let me say that again. This man
this
picked
motherfucker
a
might as
former
well went
Fox
to
News
Disneyland
host
and got these
to be the Secretary of Defense. Mind you, the person he's replacing is a black guy who has like 40-something years of experience doing this position. And you're replacing him with this guy? You cannot make this up. Exactly, perspective. You cannot make this up. I wish I could make it.
All right, brother,
right
I'm going to call it a night,
appointing
sir,
the 44-year-old Fox and Friends to be the nation's principal defense policymaker.
All right, thanks for having me. Okay.
If confirmed, he will be the second youngest ever to hold the position. Sources told News Nation Kelly Meyer that Pentagon officials are shocked, with one source referring to Hegseth as young and inexperienced. A Pentagon press corps member added that they didn't see this coming. I'm sure they didn't. Heck, I don't think anybody saw that coming. Hegseth served as an infantry officer in the Army, National Guard in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Guantanamo Bay. Pete has spent his entire life as a warrior for the troops and for the country. Pete is tough, smart, and a true believer in America first. With Pete at the helm, America's enemies are on notice. Our military will be great again, and America will never back down, Shrepp said in a statement. None of that means he's qualified for the position. None of it. The Princeton and Harvard grad has authored multiple books and outwardly supported Trump's military endeavors in the past, including his decision to kill Iranian General Qasem Soleimani. I don't know if I probably mispronounced his last name. Now let's get to an even more interesting pair. Now notice this. They have these two together. They don't have their own separate write-up. So you got Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, Department of Government Efficiency. Again, this is a whole new department. This is not one that has ever been around for longer than a year. Where all the other ones people are familiar with, this one is brand freaking new. And you are about to put two people who are, again, not qualified. So let's read into this. Trump tagged billionaire ally, keep that in mind, ally, Elon Musk and former rival Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the new Department of Government Efficiency. Together, these two wonderful Americans, since when has Elon Musk been American? I thought he was born in South Africa. We know ramen noodles is first generation born.
Damn bored.
But since when has Elon Musk been American? Can somebody confirm or deny this? Because I could have sworn that Elon was born in South Africa. Again, he said, together, these two wonderful Americans. Yeah. Let me continue this. Will pave the way for my administration to dismantle government bureaucracy, slash access regulations, cut wasteful expenditures, and restructure federal agencies essential to the Save America movement, Trump said in an announcement obtained by News Nation. The president-elect referred to Doge as the Manhattan Project. Manhattan Project. Where's Rob when you need him? Because that sounds a lot like Manhattan Institute. The Manhattan Project of his presidency, adding that the pair will work together to liberate our economy and make the U.S. government accountable to we the people. A comment from Musk was also included in the announcement. This will send shockwaves through the system and anyone involved in government waste, which is a lot of people. Trump predicted their restructuring of the government to finish no later than July 4th, 2026, the nation's 250th anniversary. Next up, Tulsi Gabbard, another face that we're too familiar with, Director of National Intelligence. I don't think Tulsi Gabbard and intelligence belongs in the same sentence, but fine, whatever. Tulsi Gabbard, a former Democratic member of Congress, is set to be Trump's Director of National Intelligence. She left the Democratic Party in 2022 to grift. I just added that in there, following an unsuccessful presidential campaign in the party's 2020 primary. Since ending her bid and leaving Congress, Gabbard appeared at events such as the Conservative Political Action Conference. Gabbard has served in the Army National Guard for more than 2 decades and was the co-chair of the Trump transition team. The Hill writes she helped Trump prepare for his debate with Democratic nominee Vice President Kamala Harris. Robert F. Kennedy, lead Department of Health and Human Services. Trump announced Thursday that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is his choice to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. The safety and health of all Americans is the most important role of any administration, and HHS will play a big role in helping ensure that everybody will be protected from harmful chemicals, pollutants, pesticides, pharmaceutical products, and food additives that have contributed to the overwhelming health crisis in this country. Mr. Kennedy will restore these agencies to the traditions of gold standard scientific research and beacons of transparency to end the chronic disease epidemic and make America great and healthy again. Jay Clayton, Manhattan's top federal prosecutor. Trump Trump-nominated former U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission Chairman Jay Clayton to serve as Manhattan's top federal prosecutor. Clayton, an attorney at Sullivan and Cromwell, who specializes in mergers and capital raising, is a political independent who developed a reputation while at the SEC for trying to forge consensus with the agency's Democratic commissioners. Clayton is likely to be seen as a somewhat unconventional pick for the office, known for high-profile financial crime prosecutions, as he does not have any criminal law experience. I had to lean into the mic. I'm sorry if your ears are hurting. But look at this. Look at this. It says Clayton is likely to be seen as somewhat an unconventional pick for the office, known for high-profile financial crime prosecutions, as he does not have any criminal law experience. The way that these people are getting picked, hell, I could have got chosen for this, but then again, I kind of know why I wouldn't. And we'll get to that later on. Todd Blanche, number 2 justice official. Trump has chosen Todd Blanche, an attorney who led the legal team that defended the Republican at his hush money criminal trial, to serve as the second highest ranking Justice Department official. A former federal prosecutor, Blanche has been a key figure on Trump's defense team, both in the New York case that ended in a conviction in May and the federal cases brought by Justice Department Special Counsel Jack Smith. Doug Burgum, Interior Department lead. Trump has chosen North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum to head the Interior Department. In 2016, Burgum ran for governor. In his first campaign for elected office, he touted a message of reinventing government as the state dealt with a massive revenue shortfall. In a major upset, Burgum defeated North Dakota longtime Attorney General in the Republican gubernatorial primary. He handily won his first term in the strong Republican state, which has about 784,000 residents. He was easily reelected in 2020. Burgum ran for president from June to December 2023. He campaigned on priorities of energy, economy, and national security, but dropped out after his bid failed to resonate. He appeared in 2 Republican debates, including the first, which he attended after hurting his Achilles tendon playing basketball. He drew attention for his campaign, offering $20 gift cards to people who would donate $1 to his campaign, so he would have enough individual donors to make the debate stage. In January, before the Iowa caucuses, he endorsed Trump. The same month, he declined to seek a 3rd term as governor. So he had to bank that Trump won. Otherwise, he would have been out of a job. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary. Oh, Candace. Oh, Candace. And y'all probably saying, why am I saying Candace? Because didn't all of her constituents try to say Candace needs to be the press secretary for Trump? Ha! That's funny. That's hilarious. Like that woman stood a chance in hell. And speaking of Candace, let me put a pause on this right quick. Do y'all know she got banned from going to Australia? Recently, she recently got banned from going to Australia. Because she thinks she can spew the rhetoric that she spews over here, over there, and they're going to be fine with that. They're like, no, Candace, you're not coming over here. And then she started trying to cry all over the damn X about it. And people was like, Candace, well, you bought it on yourself. But anyway, let's get back to this. The president-elect has tapped his campaign national press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, for a similar position in his administration, White House press secretary. Caroline is smart, tough, and has proven to be a highly effective communicator. I have the utmost confidence she will excel at the podium and help deliver our message to the American people as we make America great again. Leavitt served as an assistant press secretary and presidential writer during Trump's first term in office, something that Candace never did. Will Scharf, assistant to the president and White House staff secretary. Trump tapped his personal lawyer, William Scharf, to hold 2 titles in the president-elect's second term, assistant to the president and White House staff secretary. Scharf joined Trump's legal team in October 2023, helping Trump with his multiple legal battles. As an appellate attorney for Trump, Scharf represented the former president in 2 appeals arising from his federal election subversion case, his gag order, and presidential immunity defense. Sharp has also represented Trump in some appeals arising from the sexual abuse and defamation lawsuits brought by advice columnist E. Jean Carroll. Will is a highly skilled attorney who will be a crucial part of my White House team. He has played a key role in defeating the election interference and lawfare waged against me, including by winning the historic immunity decision in the Supreme Court. Sharp was previously a GOP candidate for Missouri Attorney General and a policy advisor for former Missouri Governor Eric Greitens. Chris Wright, they didn't even have a picture of this guy up, Secretary of Energy. The founder and CEO of fracking technology company Liberty Energy founder Chris Wright has received Trump's nomination for United States Secretary of Energy. Chris has been a leading technologist and entrepreneur in energy. He has worked in nuclear, solar, geothermal, and oil and gas. Most significantly, Chris was one of the pioneers who helped launch the American shale revolution that fueled American energy independence and transformed the global energy markets and geopolitics. His energy position will require Senate confirmation. Wright has also been tapped as a member of the newly formed Council of National Energy, which the president-elect says will consist of all departments and agencies involved in the permitting, production, generation, distribution, regulation, transportation of all forms of American energy. Wright will also work alongside Doug Burgum, who was designated to head the Interior Department just days ago. As Secretary of Energy, Chris will be a key leader, driving innovation, cutting red tape, and ushering in a new golden age of American prosperity and global peace. Brandon Carr, chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Trump has tapped FCC Commissioner Brandon Carr to take lead of the agency. I first nominated Commissioner Carr to the FCC in 2017, and he has been confirmed unanimously by the United States Senate 3 times. His current term runs through 2029, and because of his great work, I will now be designating him as permanent chairman. Carr currently serves as the senior Republican on the FCC. Before that, he was the FCC's general counsel, as well as advisor to former FCC chairman Ajit Pai. Sean Duffy, Secretary of Transportation. Trump has tapped politician and prosecutor Sean Duffy, known for his TV time on MTV's The Real World, Fox News, and y'all, we got another TV personality. So we had Pete Hegseth, who was a former Fox News host. This guy was on The Real World, Fox News, just like Pete Hegseth, and ESPN to head the Department of Transportation. In Trump's Monday announcement of the nomination, he called Duffy a tremendous and well-liked public servant for his time as representative of Wisconsin's 7th Congressional District, the seat he held from 2011 to 2019. He will prioritize excellence, competence, competitiveness, and beauty when rebuilding America's highways, tunnels, bridges, and airports. He will ensure our ports and dams serve our economy without compromising our national security. And he will make our skies safe again by eliminating. I got to zoom in for this one. Y'all ready for this? Let me zoom in. He will prioritize excellence, competence, competitiveness, and beauty when rebuilding America's highways, tunnels, bridges, and airports. He will ensure our ports and dams serve our economy without compromising our national security, and he will make our skies safe again by eliminating DEI for pilots and air traffic controllers. That is a quote directly from Trump. I had to zoom in at 170% just to make sure y'all saw that. Not just hear it, I needed you to see it. Howard Lutnick, Secretary of Commerce. CEO Howard Lutnick has been nominated as Trump's United States Secretary of Commerce, the president-elect announced Tuesday. Lutnick will also hold additional direct responsibility for the office of the United States Trade Representative. The Cantor Fitzgerald billionaire, who currently works as the co-chair of the Trump-Vance transition team, has publicly embraced Trump's sweeping tariff plans. Dr. Oz. Dr. Oz. Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. At least they put someone in a position that sounds like they actually should be there. I don't agree with his politics, though. Another TV star has joined Trump's incoming administration as the president-elect tapped Dr. Mehmet Oz Tuesday to serve as the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Administrator. In the announcement, Trump said he expects Oz and RFK Jr. to work together to take on the illnesses industrial complex and all the horrible chronic diseases left in its wake. There may be no physician more qualified and capable than Dr. Oz to make America healthy again. He is an eminent physician, heart surgeon, inventor, and world-class communicator who has been at the forefront of healthy living for decades. Linda McMahon, aka Vince's wife, Secretary of Education. How in the hell? How in the red hot hell did she get this position? But then again, I'm asking that for many of the people that we have read through so far. Trump has nominated former administrator of the Small Business Administration, Linda McMahon, to lead the Department of Education. If confirmed by the Senate, she'd head a federal agency the president-elect plans to abolish during his second term. As Secretary of Education, Linda will fight tirelessly to expand quote-unquote choice to every state in America and empower parents to make the best education decisions for their families. During Trump's first term, McMahon served as the 25th administrator of the Small Business Administration from February 2017 to April 2019, when she stepped down to help run Trump's re-election campaign. McMahon is currently the co-chair of Trump's transition team. She, her husband, Vince McMahon, and WWE were named in an October lawsuit accusing the higher-ups of failing to prevent the alleged sexual exploitation of boys by a ringside announcer. Put a pin in Linda McMahon, because I don't know how far Linda's going to go with this one, because I have an article that I'm going to read from later on as we continue to go through. Matthew Whitaker, NATO ambassador. Trump has named his former acting attorney general, Matthew Whitaker, as the next ambassador to NATO, selecting him to fill the role at a crucial time amid Russia's war in Ukraine and tensions over defense spending across the Western Security Alliance. In a statement, Trump said Whitaker is a strong warrior and loyal patriot who will ensure the United States' interests are advanced and defended. Matt will strengthen relationships with our NATO allies and stand firm in the face of threats to peace and stability. I have full confidence in Matt's ability to represent the United States with strength, integrity, and unwavering dedication. Whitaker was the acting attorney general for about 3 months during the middle of Trump's first term before he served as chief of staff to Jeff Sessions for a bit more than a month before Sessions resigned as attorney general in November 2018, opening the role for him. He was previously a U.S. attorney for the Southern District of Iowa under President George W. Bush's administration. Whitaker also served in private practice from 2009 to 2017 before rejoining the Department of Justice. He has been a political consultant for the past few years, and he has 3 degrees from the University of Iowa. Doug Collins, Veterans Affairs Secretary. Trump announced he would appoint Doug Collins to lead Veteran Affairs in his new administration. Collins is a former Republican congressman from Georgia who gained recognition for defending Trump during his first impeachment trial, which centered on U.S. assistance for Ukraine. Trump was impeached for urging Ukraine to investigate Joe Biden in 2019 during the Democratic presidential nomination, but the Senate acquitted him. Collins has served in the armed forces himself and is currently a chaplain in the United States Air Force Reserve Command. In a statement, Trump said Doug will be a great advocate for our active duty service members, veterans, and military families to ensure they have the support they need. Thank you, Doug, for your willingness to serve our country in this very important role. Sergio Gore, White House personnel. Trump appointed Sergio Gore an ally, again, another ally and business partner for his son, Donald Trump Jr., to run the White House personnel office in his new administration. Gore is slated to lead the presidential personnel office, an important position given Trump's desire to stock his administration with loyalists and root out any individuals who may not follow through with his agenda. The office helps identify and put forward appointees to fill thousands of jobs across the federal government. Awesome news, Sergio, will be great, Trump Jr. posted on the social platform X about news of Gore's appointment. Gore is a former aide to Senator Rand Paul and co-founded a publishing company with Trump Jr. that has published books by the president-elect and conservative personalities such as Charlie Kirk and Peter Navarro. Gore also led the pro-Trump super PAC Right for America. During Trump's first term, the office was led by Johnny McEntee, who reportedly sought out loyalists to serve in the administration. McEntee more recently worked on a Heritage Foundation effort to identify personnel and lay the foundation for the next Republican administration. Stephen Chung, White House Communications Director. Stephen Chung, who has served as a top press aide on the Trump campaign for the past 2 years, will join the incoming administration as White House Communications Director. While Chung was not a regular presence on television like some of Trump's other aides, he has worked with the former president in a communications role for years, having served on Trump's 2016 and 2020 campaigns. Chung also did a stint as a top communications official for the UFC, a league headed up by Trump and ally Dana White. The campaign spokesperson is also known for his combative presence on social media. Pete Hoekstra, ambassador to Canada. Trump has announced Pete Hoekstra as his nominee for U.S. ambassador to Canada. Hoekstra, a former congressman from Michigan and past chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, served as ambassador to the Netherlands during Trump's first term. In a statement, Trump praised Hoekstra's work in Michigan and his role in advancing the USMCA trade agreement, calling him a key figure to putting America first. Pam Bondi. Now, this is the woman, the newest person that just got it added in. She's the one that replaced Matt Gaetz. Pam Bondi, U.S. Attorney General. Trump has named former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi as his next nominee to lead the Department of Justice. Bondi was a swift pick just hours after Representative Matt Gaetz withdrew himself from consideration for the role. For too long, the partisan Department of Justice has been weaponized against me and other Republicans. Not anymore. Pam will refocus the DOJ to its intended purpose of fighting crime and making America safe again. I have known Pam for many years. She is smart and tough and is an American first fighter who will do a terrific job as Attorney General, Trump said on Truth Social. Kelly Loeffler, Secretary of Agriculture. Former Senator Kelly Loeffler of Georgia is rumored to be Trump's nominee for Secretary of Agriculture. According to sources close to the transition, she served briefly in the Senate, being appointed to one of Georgia's Senate seats in 2019 following a retirement, but was defeated by Democrat Raphael Warnock in the 2020 special election. A former business executive, Loeffler is currently serving as co-chair of Trump's inauguration committee. This one says, other Trump appointments, it says Dan Scavino, James Blair, and Taylor Budowich, whatever it is. And those, it says, who won't be on Trump's team. Nimrata, Ron Howard, Mike Pompeo, and that is it. Woo! Y'all, that was a lot of article I just read. So now we have read every last name that is going to be on or in the Trump cabinet. Man, let me see what people said in the super chat. Well, the members, I should say. Shout out to Janesta for being a member for 27 months. She said, B1 Torian and family, B1 to you. Shout out to John Guillory for gifting 5 memberships to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. Man, it took me nearly an hour to get through that whole. I told you we're gonna be here for a while and we ain't done. But before we get into the next thing, I gotta show this. A shout out to Wallow J for sending this to me. Do y'all know who this is? Oh, and let me also, I'm gonna put in the chat the link to the article I just read. That way y'all can just have it for later on. Do y'all know who this is? When Wallow J sent me this, I felt like I'm looking at 2 different people. But it is indeed the same person. This is Ramen Noodles, y'all. Now we clearly know this is how he currently looks, but right here, he looks a little bit more melanated. Something tells me he been dibbling dabbling in that cake soap jar, because he looks way lighter here than he does here, and his hairline. You know, he got that Vegeta McDonald's Golden Arches hairline here. His hair, I don't know what it looks like. His hair looks more fuller right here. But this is indeed the same person. Now you can tell he's more younger right here because this is an older picture. This is him currently. When I saw this, I said, huh? Like literally, I was like, what am I looking at here? Songwriter says, don't his God. You crazy. He said, don't his God have 8 arms. You crazy. But yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there because Wallow J sent it to me. Shout out to Wallow J. Let's move on to the next thing. And it's this article right here coming from CNN. It was posted 2 days ago. It says, Trump's Piccs don't look like America. They look exactly like Fox News. It's crazy because 2 of the Piccs came from Fox News. Let's see what they're talking about. While President Joe Biden bragged about picking the most diverse cabinet in history, once that he said looks like America, President-elect Donald Trump is looking for TV experience. While Trump picks so far mostly lack in racial or gender diversity, there are a handful of women and 1 Latino, for example, but no Black Americans selected. I don't know why they say yet because I don't think one will be picked. They do reach outside of the normal stable of likely government officials in keeping with Trump's goal of shaking up Washington. It shouldn't necessarily be a shock from the former president who likes to see attractive people defend him on TV and who became famous in New York tabloids and a reality show. But it's striking nonetheless to see the number of TV and entertainment personalities Trump is tapping for his 2nd term. The cabinet is still taking shape and key roles like Treasury Secretary have not been filled. Plus, not all of his Fox News picks are for cabinet roles. The latest development is that Trump is reportedly eyeing Dan Bongino, a former Secret Service agent turned right-wing podcaster who left his job hosting a Fox News show in 2023 as Secret Service director. There are others also in contention for the position. A TV anchor from Central Casting to oversee 2 million service members, and this is, of course, Picc. The most notable instance of the made-for-TV cabinet is Trump's announcement of his choice for Defense Secretary Picc, a Fox News Weekend host with a great physique and hair whose tattoos drove him from the Army National Guard. Picc has big ideas for how to reform the military, starting with the firing of some generals, including the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the ending of diversity programs in the military. He also wants women out of combat roles, something that could be contested by Tulsi Gabbard, Trump's pick for the non-cabinet role of Director of National Intelligence, who served in the Field Medical Unit during the U.S. war in Iraq and still in the Army reservist. A TV doc to oversee health insurance for 160 million plus Americans. Dr. Mehmet Oz, who most people know as Dr. Oz, is a cardiothoracic surgeon who turned guest appearances on Oprah Winfrey show into his own daytime career. He left that to run unsuccessfully for Senate in Pennsylvania in 2022. Days before the announcement of his appointment, he was selling vitamin supplements online. Trump wants odds to take over the most important agency most Americans may never have heard of, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, or CMS, which oversees health insurance coverage for more than 160 million Americans. A Christian TV host to the Holy Land. Mike Huckabee was the governor of Arkansas, a position now held by his daughter, Sarah, who serves as Trump's press secretary during his first term in between failed bids for the Republican presidential nomination in 2008 and 2016. Huckabee hosted a show also on Fox News. More recently, he had a show on the Trinity Broadcasting Network, a Christian outlet. He'll bring an evangelical worldview to Jerusalem, where Trump moved the U.S. embassy if confirmed as U.S. ambassador to Israel. Excuse me. Trump's choice is controversial for anyone who envisions a two-state solution in the Middle East, since Huckabee once said there's no such thing as a Palestinian. A reality TV original, one half of a Fox News super couple, to oversee the sprawling transportation system. I'm not going to read the rest of that, or all of this. I'm just going to go down by line. A Fox favorite who has expressed sympathy for Russia to be the top U.S. spy. They're talking about Tulsi Gabbard. A Fox contributor to be the border czar, an anti-mainstream conspiracy theorist and author to oversee health policy. A wrestling entertainment magnate to oversee education. And I think that's the end. So what have we learned? It's a lot of entertainers in here. Aren't they the same ones that say to not mix entertainment with politics? Yet that's all we see so far is entertainers. Now, speaking of Linda McMahon, let's go a little bit further into Linda and her controversy with, and it's crazy. It's not surprising because look at who her husband is. Linda McMahon, Trump's education pick, was sued for allegedly enabling SA of children. A recent lawsuit alleges Linda McMahon, who President-elect Donald Trump tapped to lead the Department of Education, knowingly enabled the sexual exploitation of children by a World Wrestling Entertainment, or the WWE, employee as early as the 1980s. Allegations she denies. McMahon is the former CEO of the WWE, which she co-founded with her husband Vince. As head of the WWE, Linda McMahon oversaw its transformation from a wrestling entertainment company into a publicly traded media empire. She stepped down in 2009 to run for Senate, but she lost in Connecticut in 2010 and 2012. As McMahon, who co-chairs Trump's transition team, buys to be confirmed as education secretary, a recent lawsuit raises question about her care for children's safety at the WWE. The suit alleges McMahon, her husband, the WWE, and TKO Group Holdings, the league's parent company, knowingly allowed employee Melvin Phillips Jr. to use his position as a ringside announcer to do unspeakable things to children. I'll put it like that. The filing alleges Phillips will recruit children to work as quote-unquote ring boys, helping him set up and take down wrestling rings at WWE events. However, the job was a guise for exploiting the children, which Phillips would do even in front of wrestlers and executives in the locker area. He would also often film his abuse, according to the filing. The suit was filed in October in Baltimore County, Maryland, on behalf of 5 John Does who say they were ages 13 to 15 when Phillips met and recruited them to work as ring boys. Each of them say they suffered mental and emotional abuse as a result of the alleged abuse. Phillips lured and manipulated the young boys with promises of meeting famous wrestlers and attending the highly popular wrestling shows, experiences that were otherwise unattainable for these kids. The McMahons, WWE, and TKO Holdings allowed Phillips and others to engage in and foster the WWE's rampant culture of SA. The lawsuit claims that the McMahons were negligent as employers and failed to protect the plaintiffs, who are demanding more than $30,000 in damages. Phillips worked for the WWE in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s as a prominent ringside announcer and crew chief. He died in 2012. Both Linda and Vince McMahon were aware of Phillips' abuse, the lawsuit alleges. Vince McMahon admitted that he and Linda were aware as early as the early to mid 1980s that Phillips had a, quote, peculiar and unnatural interest in young boys. Laura Bravetti, an attorney for Linda McMahon, called the allegations false. This civil lawsuit, based upon 30-plus-year allegations, is filled with lies, exaggerations, and misrepresentations regarding Linda McMahon. Ms. McMahon will vigorously defend against this baseless lawsuit, without doubt ultimately succeed. Bravetti also told CNN that Linda and Vince McMahon are quote-unquote separated and have been apart for some time. Jessica Rosenberg, an attorney for Vince McMahon, did not respond to CNN's request for comment for this story. Rosenberg said in a previous statement that the lawsuit allegations are false. The WWE did not immediately respond to CNN's request for comment. Phillips' alleged abuse at the WWE was reported by the New York Post as early as 1992. It was common knowledge in the WWE among the ring crew, wrestlers, and executives that Phillips surrounded himself with a posse of underage ring boys, including when he traveled across state lines and stayed in hotel rooms with the children. The McMahons fired Phillips in 1988 after allegations about him exploiting the children continued to surface. They rehired him 6 weeks later on the condition that he steered clear from kids, but he continued to exploit the young boys with the McMahon's knowledge, the lawsuit alleges. After decades of suffering and silence from the childhood trauma, these survivors come forward now to hold defendants accountable for their conduct in allowing the systemic and pervasive abuse by Phillips, the lawsuit alleges. No one has been criminally charged. In 2023, the Maryland Child Victims Act, which repeals the statute of limitations of certain child abuse civil lawsuits, became law. The legislation recognizes that survivors of childhood abuse often wait years before disclosing the abuse to others due to the psychological and emotional trauma, said Greg Gutzler, a partner at DeCello Levitt, which is representing the plaintiffs along with Murphy, Falcon, and Murphy. Linda McMahon worked in Trump's first cabinet as the administrator for the Small Business Administration before stepping down in 2019 to chair a pro-Trump super PAC. She is also co-founder and the board chair of the America First Policy Institute, a pro-Trump think tank. Allegations of trafficking and abuse have followed Vince McMahon for some time. In 2023, Vince McMahon paid a multi-million-dollar settlement to a former employee accusing him of violations, and he stepped down this year as executive chairman to TK Holdings following allegations of SA and trafficking. He has denied the allegations. Most recently, Vince McMahon is a subject in a federal criminal investigation in a separate lawsuit in a federal court in Connecticut. The lawsuit was put on hold this summer until early December. A criminal investigation around McMahon also exists in New York, though it doesn't carry legal risk for Linda, who left the WWE over a decade ago, according to multiple sources familiar with the investigation. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney Office in the Southern District of New York declined to comment. A lawyer for Vince McMahon declined to comment on the criminal probe. So there's that article right there. Birds of a feather, y'all. I'm telling you, that's why I titled this these 3-ring circus cabinet picks, because that's exactly what this thing is about to turn into. So I hope y'all are prepared. Now let's go on to the next thing. Matt Gaetz. Oh, Matt Gaetz. I thought it was real controversial that he picked this man anyway, but I'm not surprised that he did. And then all the stuff that has come out that we already knew about. So Matt Gaetz, he only had the cabinet position for like a couple of days, maybe a week. Not enough for him to really do anything. But now he is gone on to say that he's not returning to Congress next year. Because see, the thing is, if Matt Gaetz would have got installed in that position that Trump wanted him for, they was going to pry into that and it wouldn't have looked good for him. It's still not looking good for him, to be quite honest. But let's see what they're talking about over here. Former Former Florida Representative Matt Gaetz, who withdrew from consideration as President-elect Donald Trump picked for Attorney General on Thursday, said Friday he will not be returning to Congress next year. I'm still going to be in the fight, but it's going to be from a new perch. I do not intend to join the 119th Congress, he told Charlie Kirk. Of course, he went and told Charlie Kirk in an interview. Gaetz, first elected in 2016, had resigned from the House earlier this month after Trump selected him to lead the Department of Justice and before the House Ethics Committee could release a report about its investigation into him, including alleged sexual misconduct, which he has denied. And if y'all hear the story about it, it's absolutely disturbing. The fate of the report, whether it would be released with him no longer in Congress, had resulted in an animated debate on Capitol Hill about whether he could be confirmed. In the wake of Gaetz' withdrawal as Trump's pick, senior congressional leaders in both parties have been scrambling to determine if Gaetz could return to the House next year after winning re-election this fall. There are a number of fantastic Floridians who stepped up to run for my seat, people who have inspired with their heroism, with their public service, and I'm actually excited to see Northwest Florida go to new heights and have great representation. He added, I'm going to be fighting for President Trump. I'm going to be doing whatever he asks of me. Of course he is, because that's what a brown noser does, as I always have. But I think that 8 years is probably enough time in the United States Congress. The former congressman who has sat in on a number of transition meetings and given input said he will continue to be a part of staffing the next Trump administration. He also praised Trump's subsequent choice for Attorney General, with the president-elect announced just hours after Gaetz withdrew his name, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi. I am so excited about where this transition stands. And I know there are people disappointed that I won't be the next Attorney General. Trust and believe, I don't think there's anybody on this side that's disappointed. But okay. But you have to understand it's the political process, and sometimes the path you're on is the one that takes you to a different place, and it could be a glorious place. My good friend Pam Bondi is going to be a phenomenal Attorney General for Donald Trump. She has the legal acumen, she hates criminals, she has a bright legal mind, and is a fellow Floridian. Gaetz, who said in his Thursday announcement that his selection was unfairly becoming a distraction, said that Bondi's confirmation won't have some of the sharp edges that mine would have. Gaetz claimed that he had momentum with senators, but that he was having to do two jobs at one time while meeting with them on Capitol Hill. I had a full-time job, explaining to senators that maybe a tweet I sent them about was rash and not reflective of how I would serve as Attorney General, but at the same time, I was having to build out of the Department of Justice with the right human talent, the right policy infrastructure, and Pam Bondi's confirmation won't have some of the sharp edges that mine would have. Gaetz, whose bombastic political tactics have alienated many people within his own party, downplayed the allegations against him in the House Ethics report and claimed they were part of a smear campaign. There is a play that is run in Washington that they're trying to smear somebody, and they go and dredge up false years of old allegations of the most salacious and clickbaity flavor possible. Gaetz has vehemently denied the allegations investigated by the Justice Department and the committee, including the claim that he had sex with a woman in 2017 when she was a minor. CNN reported Thursday, just before Gaetz withdrew from consideration as Attorney General, that sources familiar with her testimony said the woman told the Ethics Committee she had two sexual encounters with Gaetz, one at 2017 at a 2017 party when she was 17 years old. She testified that the second one, which had not previously been reported, included another adult woman. She also testified to both sexual encounters and a civil deposition as a part of a related lawsuit. Gaetz was well known on Capitol Hill for his role in ousting former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, and on Thursday, he blamed the California Republican for his demise. I was dealing with a politically motivated body. They didn't like me because of what I did to Kevin McCarthy, and they had an axe to grind, so that was going to serve as at least enough of a basis to delay my confirmation as Attorney General. And that's that article right there about this creepy looking dude right here. Matt Gaetz needs not smile ever. This man looks just like Jack Nicholson when he played the Joker in the first Batman movie in 1989 when he didn't have the makeup on. Remember in some scenes in the first Batman movie, he had covered his face with his actual skin tone when after he got turned it after dropping into that chemical. That's exactly what Matt Gaetz looks like every time he smiles. Even when he's not smiling, he just has a weird, creepy, purge masky looking face. He does look like a purge mask. So maybe it's a good thing that he's not in that position, because I could only imagine like that face just popping up on our screen whenever he is supposed to do something. I don't know. Ugh. But I have one more thing I have to show y'all, everyone. I have one more thing I have to show y'all, and then I'm gonna drop the link because I know y'all got a lot to say. This is a lot to be covered in this particular stream. I told y'all to get comfortable because we was going to be here for a while. I knew we was going to go over an hour, but that's fine. It's Friday. But before we get into it, I feel like I have to set the tone in order for it to actually hit and take effect.
That's cute, because I remember when your name came up as a potential Speaker of the House. There were many who speculated that based on the prominent role you played in this campaign and election, that your name would have skyrocketed to at least the front of the line. We are several cabinet picks in. Are you not surprised that you have not been named? Have you had a conversation about being a part of the administration at all?
All I will say is I am not surprised that I have not been named, but that does not mean I'm not going to do other things in the future.
Has he asked you?
No, there's some other things that I'm looking at going forward.
Like?
I'm not going to talk about them now.
We do this every time.
We're not going to break news now.
I would like to ask you, Governor
not gonna break
of
news.
Florida, Senator, perhaps if Marco Rubio is confirmed, or any of those spots enticing to you?
That's the face of someone who has been defeated. All that butt kissing and tap dancing and that he did over the last year, and he could not get one cabinet position. Laura Coates was pushing them buttons. She was saying, with all the stuff that you've done, Laura Coates, had it been me, with all the ass kissing you did, are you surprised that you didn't get a cabinet position? And he said quickly, no. Byron, stop lying. You know you were surprised you didn't get chosen for anything, but I don't know why you would be surprised if you weren't, because did you really think you were going to get something out of this? You had all these people on X literally saying, oh, Byron's going to be this, Byron's going to be that. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? Why would he is the better question. Buck dancing and tap dancing and kissing the proverbial white ass does not get you a position. However, it probably should have, considering all the cabinet picks that we just went over. He might have been qualified for at least something, opposed to some of the people that did get chosen. But Mansa Musa, I had to hit y'all with the triple P. This was the best way to end this off. With this, look at this. And I agree with KG, because I think KG said he's going to run for probably the governor down there for DeSantis' seat. And like KG said, if he does not win, his political career is over. You know what? Let me go ahead and run this back for y'all one more time, because it's just too good.
Because I remember when your name came up as a potential Speaker of the House. There were many who speculated that based on the prominent role you played in this campaign and election, that your name would have skyrocketed to at least the front of the line. We are several cabinet picks in. Are you not surprised that you have not been named?
Listen, y'all. He's not smiling because he's happy. That's a smile of pain and sadness. I think I see a little tear getting ready to form in the corner of his eye. That man probably went and cried in the car, because I think this is probably the first time that this was brought up to him after all of these cabinet picks. You know what this remind me of? You know how when the draft happens, when the NFL draft happens, and you sitting there for days on end waiting to see if your name gonna get called, and days have gone by, and then you don't get picked? That's what Byron Donalds is experiencing right now. And I don't know why I didn't catch it, but that headline, it says Reverend Al Sharpton blasts Trump for lack of black cabinet members. Al Sharpton, why did you care? I thought you didn't like Trump. See, I tell you. But back to Byron. This man said all of this stuff. I mean, think back to the lives that I did on Byron Donalds over the last few months, or the videos that I've done on this man, and the stuff that he said to black people to their face, especially on the topic of reparations. And you just sitting back watching all the other people get these cabinet positions, and one of them got snatched up that you thought, or people thought you were going to get. It must be very, very tragic being on the outside looking in through those stained colored glasses or stained colored windows.
Have you had a conversation about being a part of the administration at all?
All I will say is I am not surprised that I have not been named, but that does not mean I'm not going to do other things in the future.
So he admits, let me rewind that.
That does not mean I'm not going to do other.
Let me run it back again.
All I will say is I am not surprised that I have not been named.
So he admits it right there. I am not surprised that I have not been named. Well, here's the thing, Byron. If you knew you're not surprised that you were named, why did you do all the tap dancing that you did? Of course, to the people who tap dance the way that he does, they don't see it that way. They don't see it through the same lens as we do. They think that's just them being them. No, it is, to me, it is all an act. So he just said it right there that he's not surprised that he did not get picked, but there's other things that he has in the works in the future. Like what?
But that does not mean I'm not going to do other things in the future.
Has he asked you?
No, there's some other things that I'm looking at going forward.
Like?
I'm not going to talk about them.
And like Laura just asked him, she said, has he asked you? And by he talking about Trump, and he said no. Trump probably doesn't even call. He probably doesn't even answer this man's phone calls anymore.
Now
we do this every time.
We're not going to break news now.
I would like to ask you, Governor
of
Florida, Senator, perhaps if Marco Rubio is confirmed, or any of those spots enticing to you?
We'll see what happens as things go forward.
I don't think there's going to be much. I don't think there's going to be much. And shout out to Ricky Guillory for the $4.99. He says Byron Donalds could not pass the FBI background check. President of the United States felon. Black man can't be in his cabinet and can't pass a background check. Like I said, I think it's just funny because all these other people that got confirmed, a lot of them aren't even qualified to be in those positions. And he got overlooked. But not only him, Tim Scott, that man probably tap danced the most. That man probably went to his little prayer closet and cried and prayed all night. Probably so much to the point where he could have committed the next flood. Who else? Name some other people, y'all, because there's plenty to go around. There's plenty to go around. Hold on, y'all. Ben Carson is another one. We haven't heard from him. I already mentioned Tim Scott. Omarosa is a non-factor. Like I wouldn't even throw her in there. She doesn't even count in my opinion. I'm talking about the people that really made more noise this election cycle. She's been done with since the first administration. Well, while y'all are sitting there thinking about it, there's the link. I know y'all have something that you got to say about this.
disgraceful. Democrats triggered by illegal migrants found guilty in Laken Riley murder. MSDNC or MSNBC insinuates Laken Riley's killer was behind the Ferris harm. The insane reason Jussie Smollett's conviction was overturned. Chicago residents go off from Mayor Brandon Johnson trying to tax them to pay for migrants. That's a union, that's host Nina Martin in real time with former presidential candidate Dr. Cornel West. Super behind the RFK campaign with Theo witnesses. They say y'all need to part of it. Anytime you share, like, and subscribe to all of our platforms for more Black news. On YouTube, Facebook, The Revolutionary Agenda on YouTube and Facebook. And of course, about the Revolutionary Stance on Facebook and Twitter now X. You want us this Tuesday for a brand new episode of Black Experience Stance. The calling number is 516-418-5996. Peace, love, light, reparations, voices, and Black empowerment team. This Paris signing out from the Mile High Income, the Broncos, and legal mother for the city and the Sundance thing.